No, it's because of policies. It's because of the way they spoke to a person. Are you kidding me? If you're comparing this to Donald Trump, you're comparing this to the party that demonized the Haitian community. You're comparing this to the community or to the party who instituted a Muslim ban. So please, don't act like if we're gonna have the conversations and we're going to learn the lessons, right, as we look back. I am all for analyzing and talking about the different things that the campaign did differently, but to remove race from this, to remove that is disingenuous. His whole entire party, okay? Just look at the Madison Square Garden. Just look at that. Let's
Well,
not
let me.
forget.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, go
I hear you,
ahead.
fam.
Sorry.
Let me take it from a different perspective on that too, though. I think what also is important when we talk about race is the generational aspect of it, right? We can argue on how much it was. Was it 10%? Was it 50%? Was it 1%? But there's a generational aspect of it that for a lot of us taints the entire quote unquote victory, right? And I think people just need to understand that, right? That, okay, you know what? We're in 2024. Is 100% of the country blatantly racist? No. But when there is still this issue, right, that continues to surface every election and in every situation, it is still going to bother people significantly. I think everybody should understand that, right? If we're really going to quote unquote come together and all of this, right? You have to understand why, especially Black people, are upset, right? And we see it, right? And we see it, and we see it every time. And so, again, it's not to say that, again, it's, a huge part of it, or now we can argue what the percentage is of it. But if it happens to you, and it happened to your father, and it happened to your father's father, and it happened to your father's father's father, and your mother's mother's mother, of course you're going to be upset about it. Of course you're going to be angry about it. I don't see why, right? I don't see why folks cannot understand that, even if they don't think it is that significant to the win. Let me go to Lovely, and then I want to go to Mayu, and then we're going to go to Bob. And Lovely, I think Lovely stepped away for a second. Let me go. So we'll come back to Lovely. Let's go to Mayu, and then we'll go to Bob, and then we'll continue the discussion.
Hey, Smitty. Thanks for adding me. I've been watching you for a while now, and this is my first time on a live, so I appreciate you having this, because I'm also just this morning just wondering, like, how did this happen? I spend so much time on these political lives and these debates and stuff, and it seems like everybody has had the same concerns that came up about either abortion or inflation. And the inflation thing really concerns me because a lot of Americans misunderstand how long it takes a country to rebound from something like a global pandemic. It just is so incredibly disappointing to see that it seems like that's what guided most Americans in this election. And I think us not educating ourselves about, the economy and how it affects us has really come back to bite us. It feels like Americans solely voted based on that. And I don't know if you guys feel the same, but that's just kind of what I see. So trying to understand how we can work towards like undoing this or understanding the economy better.
Yeah, I think I think today we're going to focus on the campaign and how it was run, and maybe why the message may not have resonated with some folks, or maybe why also Donald Trump may have overperformed. Right? I think all of those things are important to have. Right?
Definitely.
There's a phrase that says Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. And so for a Democrat to be successful, in the country, there's the idea that, hey, that you have to have somebody that people really tend to fall in love with, as opposed to Republicans who, no matter who the candidate is, they're going to vote en masse for that candidate. So, we'll talk about it further. But let's go to Bob, and then we'll go to Shmulik.
Hey, thank you. I feel like there was some that when Dingbat was talking, there was a little bit of nuance missing in the conversation. I mean, with the exception of since the 80s, with the exception of Reagan to Bush, whenever one party loses, they get more mobilized, right? Which is why to date, to this very second, Joe Biden is the most voted for president in the history of the world, of America. I mean, I believe Joe Biden got like 80 million votes or something. Mm-hmm. He received more votes than anyone because Democrats had just lived through a Trump presidency, and they were like, I can't do this anymore. And then Republicans lived through a Biden presidency. They thought to themselves, oh, I can't do this anymore. And which is why they showed out in such big numbers, because they felt completely disenfranchised. And when you feel disenfranchised, then you have the desire to do more. But then when you win, you start to feel complacent. And also, it doesn't seem quite fair to call Kamala's speeches a quote unquote fake ass script. Those are talking points, right? Because when you look at it like that, Donald Trump is being graded on a curve, right? It's like there's no way that you can say that her talking points were less coherent than Donald Trump coming out saying that windmills kill whales and saying that we're letting Hannibal Lecter into the country because he was a big bad guy and doing the weave. Like, he's just being graded on a curve. That's why that's why every black person I know, at least black Americans, and I mean Americans of descendants of American chattel slavery. I don't know if black immigrant parents say this a lot, but you have to work twice as hard to get half the pay. You know what I mean? And there's no one can deny that Kamala Harris had a incredibly resilient campaign. It was genuinely a remarkable moment in history, between the funds being raised and the momentum being had, and in record time, by the way. She had less than a quarter of the time that Donald Trump had to campaign. You know what I mean? I mean, Donald Trump's been campaigning for 10 years. For 10 years. You know what I mean? So I just think that it is fair to just at least look at the nuance in the conversation instead of just, because no, Kamala Harris did not run a perfect campaign, but also look at whose campaign she was running against. The guy who was constantly blundering, falling over himself, regretting his vice presidential pick, losing, insulting community after community after community after community, having to go back and beg for their votes over and over again because the Puerto Ricans are mad. Now I got to beg for them. Oh, there's a lot of Haitians in Florida. Now I got to beg for them to come back. Oh, this. But then the people who feel emboldened by their problematic behavior, there's a lot of people who really feel emboldened, like they had to be misogynist and racist in the closet, and now they get to do it out loud because the president has done it once, and then now he's the president again, or he's the president elect. He's going to be president again. So now they don't have to do it in the closet. They don't have to be ashamed. They don't have to be afraid. Do y'all remember how embarrassed people used to be racist? How embarrassed people used to be misogynist? How embarrassed they used to be homophobic? Now they feel proud of it. They're so emboldened.
Okay.
I completely agree. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to Shmulik. Shmulik, your take on the election and why you think Donald Trump won?
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much. Huge honor to be on your channel, of course. As you know, I don't know if you know this actually, if you remember, but I was a staunch anti-Trump, very much against Trump. I held on to a lot of democratic beliefs, but up until 2 months ago. And then since 2 months ago, I encouraged all my followers to vote for Trump. And I can tell you my perspective, why I personally chose Trump. And I can tell you why I think by and large, I think America chose Trump. Okay. And because for me, as I felt that my rights and my values were being infringed upon as a Jew here in America, I felt like the Democratic Party failed me. But beyond that, when I held on to all the firmly held beliefs that I had about the Democratic Party and I evaluated them, I just figured out that they were all ineffective. They didn't do the things they said they would do. So what was I holding on to? I don't understand that. And then the second thing is I would say that people, by and large, felt that the Democratic Party as a whole, the leadership and the constituents, are very much out of touch with reality. You know, to call, for instance, to say that Jews are colonizing their own indigenous land is out of touch with reality. To say that Israel, when it's fighting a defensive war, is committing a genocide, it's out of touch with reality. And we can argue about that all day long. We have for the past year. I think that's what it was. It was, damn all the facts. Here's how I feel about it. And that is not the way to live in a country, just with your feelings. It has to be based in reality.
So let's
and it wasn't.
Yeah, let's unpack both of the things that you said, Shmulik. So
Sure.
let's start with, being Jewish in America. And actually, we just had a conversation with another fellow Jewish person yesterday, where I thought we had a really good conversation on this piece. So I want to do that as well with you. What do you feel specifically, here in America, that you felt that the Democratic Party, offended you, offended your identity as a Jewish person? What was it specifically? There's something here in America. I know how you feel about Israel, but were there things in America?
Yeah, no. Here in America, I've spent more of my life here in America by and large than I did in Israel.
Tell me what you think specifically here that you felt like the Democratic Party did wrong. What would you say?
Yeah. One of the first questions you've ever asked me when I came onto your live was, did I feel threatened? And I went on to describing a story about how I was at a Mediterranean restaurant on October 7th, or the day after, not realizing where I was and what crowd was around me, and I was a bit. I was looking over my shoulders, and Mo Pesci, told me that I was a racist and all that kind of stuff. But that wasn't really where I felt the most threatened. Where I felt the most threatened is over time, seeing how the convergence of anti-American. The sentiments of anti-American and anti-Semitism forces joined together to create a false narrative about the Jewish identity and its connection to the Jewish land, to dismiss our voice by calling us Zionists as an ideology, and to continue to attack Zionists, which make up 97% of Jews, in the streets, tearing down the protesters of kidnapped hostages. That is being out of touch with reality. And that is where I felt threatened here in America. And when I saw Kamala Harris give some iota of weight to this bullshit narrative, I said, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. So let me, and then I want to actually bring in Fed as if you don't mind, Fed, as a fellow Jewish person, just so we can have kind of both sides of the perspective. But where did you feel where I'm not connecting with you is where you feel like Kamala Harris, I felt Kamala Harris was very much pro-Israel in her communications. She stressed, she talked about October 7th a lot. She felt
they tried to play it both ways, Smitty. They tried to play it both ways because they know they're not letting go of Israel. Israel is the foothold of America in the Middle East. It is the superpower in the Middle East on its own, and together that's what makes the American superpower complete. Okay, so it's not letting go of Israel. So it was going to supply Israel with whatever it needs to fight Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis all together, which is all Iranian proxies. This has never been about Palestinian rights. This is what you guys didn't understand. It's not about white supremacy. It's not about white and black. Israel is the most diverse and democratic country in the Middle East. And you guys thought it was something else. It wasn't. It was a war between Iran, Russia, and the U.S. And the U.S. is going to support Israel no matter what. But rhetorically, Kamala Harris and Biden in the DNC tried to play it both ways and appease the far fringe left of the crowd that has been here on this live saying all the things about, this being a genocide.
Wait, God forbid. God forbid they try to be the president for all people, for all Americans. God forbid that there actually be some empathy for Palestinians.
I have empathy. I have empathy. Just stay within the lanes of reality.
Not overtalk me.
Let's let Callie come in. Let's let Callie come in smoothly. Give me a second. Let's let Callie come in with her response. Go ahead, Callie.
But God forbid that there be even a modicum of empathy for the Palestinian people who are being mass unalived. And I'm not making the argument that Harris was as aggressive in her response as I would have preferred, frankly. However, she did play it safe, and she was kind of towing the line. And I believe, in my personal opinion, I don't have tangible evidence of this, but I believe that we might have seen a slight shift, a deviation from what Biden's position had been in his stark and consistent declaration that he is a Zionist. I don't think that would have been the declaration of Kamala Harris had she obtained the Oval Office. I think we might have seen a bit more of a receptive nature from her administration, which I would have gladly welcomed, because absolutely it is a G-side that is occurring. Absolutely it should be stopped. Absolutely it is based in racism. I don't know if you've ever read Theodore Herzl, but I sure as shit have. So yeah, absolutely. It is racism. It is xenophobia. It is all of the things that have historically oppressed my people as well. So I really don't give a damn how much you try desperately to leverage your identity as a Jewish person in order to justify mass unaliving other people simply because they don't share your identity. But it's not a justifiable circumstance. Hundreds of thousands of people losing their lives, people being mass starved. That's exactly what's happening, sir. We can all read people being starved, people consistently being shelled, having drones flown over them throughout the night, having grape be utilized as a form of oppression and torture, imprisoning small children without trial in Israel. Taking their actual body parts, their liver, I don't care. I'm talking about the skin banks and it's well documented. So you can do whatever the hell you want to do. And I'm sorry, but he just said, for everybody that was listening, okay, these settler colonialists, he just said that he voted for Donald Trump because he believes that Donald Trump will be worse for Palestine, that he will be harder on this issue than Harris. I want y'all to hear that. For the people in the back who did not listen to us when we were telling you over and over and over again that Donald Trump is going to be worse, this man just got up here and told us that is why he voted for him. And I want y'all to be reminded that Donald Trump not only has essentially said that he wants to flatten Gaza and hurry up and get it over with, but then his son-in-law 5-6 months ago got on television in an interview. Google this too, okay? I ain't making this up for fun. He got on television and he talked about the value of the property in Gaza and aspirations for building in Gaza. Mind you, this is as the G-side is occurring. Bodies aren't even cold or buried, okay? And he was talking about aspirations of building atop of these people's warm graves.
So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's smoothly respond to that, and then I do want to keep it moving about the election. So I guess my question for you, I want you to respond smoothly to what Callie said. But I guess where I feel a little disconnect is when at least the demographic information that I've gotten about Jewish people in America is that they went for Harris. I think it was like 70-30 or so, roughly. I'll go back and look here on my desktop here in a second. But that's what I saw. And so, I guess, why do you think that, I hear your opinions, but it sounds like most of the Jewish community going
79%, according to 79% of people, Jewish people in America.
So even almost 80%. I guess where's the disconnect there? I guess would be my question, Shmulik, if you could answer that.
I haven't seen the stats. I don't know that that's for that to be true. So I'll have to answer that in another time.
The Pew Research Center, which is a leading statistical center.
I didn't see the facts, so I didn't see the stats. So
I'll give it to you.
So I'll be able to answer that when I can, but I can't do that now. I just feel like, again, it was just a matter of being out of touch. All the statements that the Southern lady was mentioning, I felt, again, like hundreds of thousands of people. It's not a reality. That's an estimate. And this is the feelings that you guys are regurgitating here. They're not based in reality. You're emotionally compromised. And that is, I think, what the majority of Americans started seeing with regards to the Democratic Party. And Smitty, I love you. I think you're a man that is trying to do his best. I've tried to reach out to you a number of times. I got canceled.
I canceled.
No. Hold on. 1 second. I got canceled. Smitty knows. I've tried to reach out several times. I told you you're in an echo chamber. You guys didn't listen. You didn't listen. I got canceled.
Hang on. I just have a question. Hold on, Southern.
30 seconds.
Wait, 1 second.
I need 30 seconds.
1 second.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Because he specifically said something about being emotionally compromised as problematic. Ultimately, you got up here and you talked about your emotions as a justification for why you were voting the way that you were voting. You felt unsafe. There was nothing that actually tangible that you could lean into to say that you were unsafe in this country. Meanwhile, we can lean into a lot of data that supports the fact that Palestinians are actively unsafe, and they have been. Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry. Why am I getting cut off all the time?
Abroad and here. I did not interrupt you. Don't interrupt me.
You did interrupt me the first time.
I did not interrupt you when you were speaking, sir.
She said she only needed 30 seconds. I do want to keep this moving about the election. I did want to. So, but let's let Callie respond.
No, I just, that's it.
I just have
into feelings in order to justify his position, and that's fine. But don't try to gaslight anybody else and say they are just working on emotion, when in actuality you already expressed that your vote was entirely rooted in your emotions and not anything tangible. Thank you.
Right. So getting back to the election part, I do have a question. I'm with Smitty on this. I'm not drawing the connection between what is going on in Gaza with why you voted the way that you voted. Just own the way that you voted. That's fine. But I also, just as I said last night, that the results of the election should not be wrongly blamed on a third-party vote, because the numbers just don't support that, right? Also, what you're saying doesn't seem to align. Now, if you voted for him for other reasons, because newsflash, the number one reason why Latino men went in and voted for Trump had nothing to do with Gaza. The number one reason why
I didn't say
women.
Gaza. I said because it's out of touch.
Right. Hang on. Let me finish. Hang on. Okay. Right. So that's your right. So when we talk about reality, like Smitty and I were pretty committed to this on our live last night. We knew that there were going to be a lot of very passionate feelings regarding the election, but we also want to try to make sure that we keep things rooted. However people vote, that's fine. But the data doesn't support that. And you kind of conflated the two and said, when you said out of touch with reality, you kind of led into kind of to what Southern was saying, your experience and feeling attacked in those things, which, okay, if that's your thing, that's fine. But again, you're talking about what we're talking about, why you felt like certain communities or why the country went with Trump, and you were saying out of touch with reality. What Southern just mentioned were all well-documented facts that can't be argued. And so, okay, describe what your feeling is as to why you then voted. I didn't mute you. I didn't mute you.
Well,
I think that's what Smitty. Yeah, I think that's what Smitty was getting back to. Right, saying focused on the election. Yeah.
So let's again. I wanted to have this conversation, right? Again, as a Jewish American, how he felt. That is very
right.
to have that conversation with him. Hold on, give me 1 second. I just want to clarify, right? There will always be space for the Jewish community on my panel, and whatever they feel, I want to listen and understand how they feel. Okay, period. That should go without saying, right? But also, I do want to keep this conversation going, get up to Tony and get Tony's perspective, right, about how he feels about it. So I want to bring it back to the election. So Smoothie, you can 30 seconds, and then I want to go up to Tony.
Yeah. Calling for the elimination of the Jewish state makes it unsafe for me. Makes it unsafe for me. When you say, one second. When you say 200,000 people died, that is factually untrue. And 40,000 that died, most of them were Hamas operatives. And you guys were here calling it a genocide. That's all I'm going to say.
But is that why you vote right?
I love you. Thank you.
Keeping it focused. If you want to drop, that's fine.
I would love to sit down with you.
You're not going to scapegoat that. Hold on.
I will.
You're not going to scapegoat Smitty like that.
You know
you're not going to. Hold on.
You're not very much.
Okay, that's fine.
Wonderful 4 years. Bye bye.
I mean, if he's going,
hang on 1 second. Hang on. I know. Hang on 1 second, because Tony is next. So again, like Smitty was saying, we're trying to stay focused on the election, and if other people, want to come up and share that, that's fine. But if whoever it is, if you feel safe with sharing with who you voted, at least like to Smitty's point, we're trying to at least get some understanding with why, and not charging it with other rhetoric, right, at this point in the conversation. So I do want to point that out, because I do think these conversations are important. I do think they're valuable too, because obviously the interactions that we're going to have with each other, to me, are way more valuable than data that I'm looking at, coming from a poll or something that's just kind of flat with no context to it. So again, like Smitty was saying, it's not about pushing or pulling people, but I think that's incredibly important. And by the way, if what is it, 10 o'clock my time? If you've been on the app for any portion of the day today, we're seeing these kind of toxic conversations. What my hope is, as we have these conversations, just like last night when I pulled up the data to show that a third-party vote statistically had nothing to do with this landslide that we see here, we miss important parts of the conversation. And I think what we just witnessed there is kind of the collusion, not like Smitty said, because he's a Jewish person, or because a person's black, or they're male, or they're female, but like Smitty has always said, if we're going to have the conversation, the uncomfortable conversation, at least let's be genuine about it. That's all I want to say. And please, y'all in the chat, please follow TikTok guidelines. Please do that for me.
Smitty, can I chime in just briefly about this?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I do want to get Tony's opening comment, and then we'll maybe step out of line here in a second and add some other voices I know that want to weigh in. So we will definitely do that. But Tony's been waiting for a while. Tony, why do you feel like Donald Trump won? Your analysis on the election.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's my first time here. So, I think if you look at the election, what are the issues that most Americans are concerned about, right? Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, this is just my guess, is the cost of living, right? Everything's extremely expensive. Wages haven't kept up. Housing, food, all incredibly expensive, and most Americans are suffering, right? And so, if you look at, and again, there's a lot of different issues that most people, that are different to that are important to different people, right? But I think this is probably one of the main issues.
The economy.
Yeah, it's just people. It's hard for the average person to survive. Everybody's living paycheck to paycheck, right? And I just think that Donald Trump, versus Kamala Harris, has done a better job of communicating those issues to Americans about like what he's going to do to fix the economy. Mm-hmm. And if you look at inflation as a whole right now, there's a lot of different factors that have contributed to inflation and cost of living, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Biden and Harris have gotten a lot of, how do I say this? It's not entirely their fault. I don't think Biden was a great president per se, but I don't think blaming him for all of our economic problems is entirely fair. So, So, I think overall that's why, Donald Trump won. I voted for Donald Trump, even though I felt, I don't agree with his tariffs. I don't think that's great for the economy.
Yep.
That's why I think in general I voted for him, because I think he's going to do a better job of leading the country. And I think he would do a better job relative to Harris in fixing our economic issues.
Let me ask you a follow-up question real quick, Tony. I appreciate your candor and appreciate your opening comment. Let me ask you a follow-up. What do you think Harris could have done to have earned your vote? It sounds like you're obviously very rational. Sounds like you're into finance. So I'm sure you're very analytical. What could she have done?
Look, this is the thing with me. Okay, is I'm an independent voter. I don't have I don't have an affiliation with the Democrats or the Republicans. Mm-hmm. I will say this though is, I started off as a left-leaning independent. Mm-hmm. I think over the years I've become significantly more right-leaning because of the fact that I feel like liberals have become more and more like, oh, I'm right, I'm smarter than you, and if you don't agree with me, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're a bigot, you're a fascist. And I went on TikTok Live, and I told people that hey, look, I voted for Trump last night, and I got all sorts of like nasty comments, like, hey, you should move back to China, you're stupid, they called me racial slurs, like this is coming from people who are that support DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so
let me say this, Tony, that they don't support it if they called you those kind of names. They don't.
And it's like I've lived in the US for 26 years. I'm a US citizen. I'm a proud American. I don't think I'm going to get deported anywhere. So. But
to be clear,
I think Bob wants to jump in. Go ahead, Bob, and then we'll go to General next. Go ahead.
To be clear, there is a candidate calling people stupid, and calling people stupid is overwhelmingly not coming from the left. I mean, if you go back through all of Trump's rhetoric, and look at the people that he calls stupid, dumb, low IQ, morons, that's almost exclusively coming from the right. So I don't understand how people are saying like Democrats and left-leaning people are the ones calling people stupid. That is what's happening. And Tony, I just want to say real quick, I don't know if you are familiar with the term model minority, but in my opinion, this feels like what's happening in this moment, right? The phrase model minority was a term created by a Republican that helped create a separation between Asian Americans and Black Americans, right? By this notion that insinuating that, see, look, these are the good ones. Model minority was the first version of the good ones. I'm using air quotes. You all can't see it because the camera's off because I'm shirtless. But yeah, the idea of a model minority was this idea like, look, these are the good ones, which created a tear in the Black and Asian community, which is odd because Black people and Jewish people and Black people and Asian people have been living side by side for a very long time with a relationship that benefits each other for a very long time. Ask any Black woman who they buy their hair care products from. It's going to be either a Black woman or an Asian woman. Ask a lot of Black people, like Asian people, who they like. There is a clear communication and a cultural connection between Black and Asian communities. However, when we allow them to pit us against each other and against ourselves, especially against African Americans and not just Black Americans, I mean African Americans, not Black Americans who were brought here, not Black Americans who have migrated here. You know what I mean? So I think that if we're going to be realistic about it, I don't think that that left-leaning people are the ones calling people stupid. I mean, let's just be honest about it, right?
At least on TikTok Live, last night when I was doing TikTok Live, again, I don't think it would be the people on the right that would call me stupid, right? Because I voted for, I said, on my TikTok Live, I voted for Trump. So the people that were calling me,
they're going to call you a hero.
The people that were calling me the racial slurs, right? the people that were calling me, stupid. Again, and if you're a content creator, people are going to take shots at you regardless. So I'm okay with people calling me names, but I just think that that attitude has, partially, moved me from, being left leaning over to becoming much more right leaning.
Let me jump in, Tony. Let me say a couple things. One, I want to say this to everybody that's listening, right? It is always important for us to call out bigots, right, that may agree with us from a voting perspective, but that we always call them out. So when Tony says, hey, you know what, this was my experience in a Democratic live or in a liberal live or a progressive live, I call them, I want to get my live messed up, I call them out 100%, right? As soon as you said it. I think where the disconnect is, right, Tony, is the rhetoric that Bob is talking about on the right, specifically as a result to the Asian community. I know, I'm sure you're very familiar with what happened right after COVID and all of the racism that the Asian American community faced during that era. And I think that when we look at, who was more supportive of the Asian American community, it certainly was folks on the left and liberals most likely that were much more supportive, right, than folks on the right. And so I think that's where the disconnect comes in overall. Not that you were, I 100% believe that you would call these names. And again, those people will never have a place on my platform and will never be able to do that here. But at the same time, I think if we think about it overall, I think that it seems to come a lot more from the right. And I think why Bob is bringing up the model minority myth is that it seems that in the Asian community, there are some that have kind of bought into this idea of a caste system that, hey, if I do these things one way or another, then that puts me in a better proximity to the right and quite honestly to whiteness, and then you benefit from that. And so I think Bob was spot on for bringing that up. But again, I know it's a lot, Tony. If you can, maybe 30 seconds, then I want to go to General.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, like I said, I just voted on who I think is going to be, who's going to do the best to lead the country. And I think, look, Trump won the popular vote, right? And so, most Americans, a majority of Americans, not a huge majority, but a majority of Americans, agree with me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wrong to say that everybody that voted for Donald Trump has a poor opinion of black people, or everybody that, voted for Donald Trump, wants, horrible things to happen to us. Right. And so, again, this is one of the main reasons why I want to have this live, is to try to understand, right? And Tony, you gave your clear opinion as to why you voted for Donald Trump, and let's hear others who voted for him and why they did. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man.
May I say one thing briefly?
Yeah, go ahead, Fed, and then we'll go to General. Go ahead.
Yeah, two things. One, I think between what you and everyone else was saying on the panel and Tony are saying, somewhere in the middle is the truth, because agreed, there is deplorable vitriolic rhetoric coming from the right that is insanely racist. And we can all acknowledge that. We've heard it. It's not a secret. It's actually open. And they said it on stage and everybody laughed and they love it. But we also, as people on the left, also need to be real with ourselves that it can be equally as vitriolic when folks don't fall in line, and it immediately resorts back to the same hateful rhetoric. Like, I'm not saying it's as overwhelming on the left, but it does exist, and it's not a small minority either. There is very tribal thinking, groupthink that happens on the left, and anyone who deviates from that thinking gets immediately thrown under the bus. Even myself, who's not a right-leaning person, who didn't vote for Trump, but just calls balls and strikes as I see them about the election, was getting hate. I think we have to acknowledge that. On the Jewish American front, Jewish Americans overwhelmingly voted for Kamala Harris. That's just a fact. I think where Kamala Harris lost people is that people didn't show up. I don't think that she was flipping any Trump supporters. Like, when we talk about the comparison of rhetorics, anybody who was going to vote for Trump didn't give a fuck about what Kamala was saying because they were going to vote for Trump. I think the people that she had to the gains that Biden made in 2020, she lost because of the alienation, I think, of the folks who really thought she did not support or be as vocal and as empathetic as she could have been towards the Palestinian cause. But for Jewish Americans who support Israel, I don't know what Shmulik was talking about, they overwhelmingly came out and voted for Kamala because they thought that Kamala would be better for Israel. So there's no data. If we're going to be rooted in data, like Nichelle said, we have to be honest. Jewish Americans thought that Kamala would be better for Israel. And the folks who stayed home, which is part of the reason why she lost, that people didn't show up for her, was because they thought that she wasn't strong enough on the issue that they felt, which is Gaza. So I don't know what this man was talking about. There's no data to support anything he said.
To your point, real quick, before General, real quick, just two things real quick. To everybody's point, general information, so I've been checking the stats. Peer research is already pulling out data, extracting data. The number one thing across all demographics, regardless of what voting bloc you were part of, was inflation and prices. And the second one was immigration. And the third one was jobs in the economy. And those are the top three things. If we're analyzing the campaign, trying to pull away from the rhetoric and all this other, those were the top three things that all voters were concerned about when they were going into the voting booth. I just wanted to add that in there real quick.
But I don't think that's okay. I don't think that it's. I didn't, me and Dingbat agree on something, because I don't think that it's short-sighted to actually mention Gaza in the analysis of this, and the fact that while it may not have been in the top three or whatever, it may have been the segment of the population that was unfazed and did not come out to vote, or came out and voted third party. And that segment, whatever that percentage is, because this race is so close, and because we were fully reliant upon those blue wall states, basically, and a tad bit of the Sun Belt over there to make this race, I think that could have easily made the difference. So the fact that she did not differentiate herself, and I've said this too since way back, Smitty, I didn't appreciate that. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't like the fact that she didn't allow a Palestinian person to speak at the DNC. I did not appreciate the fact that she wouldn't go a step further and talk about an arms embargo. I did not like the fact that she, in my opinion, was not doing enough to deviate from the historical Biden agenda and his staunch and consistent support and his outright statement that he is the Zionist. She should have, in my opinion, taken it a step further and at least come across as being open and drastically open to hearing people out and making a change and putting some teeth into the support. She didn't have to fully abandon Israel, but she could have put some teeth into our policy and articulated how America would be different moving forward under a Biden administration in not allowing anyone to be subjugated or mass unalived on our watch. And she didn't do that. And that was a failure.
And by the way, real quick, again,
let me just let General jump in.
I was just going to say it doesn't capture apathy. That's all I was going to say.
Y'all, please do not let the Shmuley give you the notion or lead you into anti-Semitism. I assure you that Jewish people did not swing the vote that much. This is not shade, but Jewish people are less than 3% of America. Less than 3%. There are more redheads in America than there are Jewish people in America.
Wait. Did I say anything about Jewish? Are you referring to me, Bob? I just want to clarify.
No, Shmuley.
Okay, I was just, okay.
No, because Shmuley
I don't think that at all. Okay.
20 million people abstained, and that's not even the Jewish population in America. So Bob is absolutely correct. This had nothing to do with Jews.
That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to take away time from General, but I'm seeing some stuff in the comments. Again, if we're going to have an honest conversation, right, what the polls do not capture is apathy, which is what Southern and I think that we're talking about. I have stats in front of me for who chose to get up and go vote. What we don't know, to Southern's point, is how she handled Gaza. There is no poll to capture the apathy of people who did not get engaged and why they didn't get engaged. So that's all I wanted to point out. I think that's very important to point out.
20 million, Southern. 20 million,
right.
20 million Democrats stayed home.
I hear you, and I'm just trying to keep the live moving. I hear you. I'm not trying to cut people off, but I got to keep the live moving. And then also, I want to bring up Jamal and Nader. So I'm gonna need somebody to drop here in a second. But let me. Okay. All right. You get Fed? You want to drop? Okay. All right. So we got Fed to drop. All right. So I want to bring both of them up together. General, how you doing, fam? Your thoughts on the election?
Hey, good morning, Smitty. Good morning, everyone on the panel. By the way, it's okay. I could have waited my turn. I know they were trying to just get off whatever the discussion was, and it was a good conversation that the sisters were having on the panel. So, and I didn't want to interrupt. So it's okay. My time is still flexible with you guys. It's no problem. But really, I wanted to address Shmuley, obviously, but for what he said, the ton of misinformation that he put forward towards us. It is reflective only on himself, his own views. It is not reflective on the Jewish population, but more so that it is the reflection of what people of today voted for Gaza, so to speak. I don't think that's really even in place. Really, like a lot of the, I just want to just get this point across that with Shmuley, right? And I wanted to address this with him, is that you can't deny whatever is happening. That Gaza is basically destroyed at this moment. It would take decades, if not a century right now, to rebuild it. It is split off. There's devastation every other day. Jabalia, even today, was attacked. Around 50 people unalived. This is still ongoing. It is not. It's a joke for somebody like himself to come up and say that it's not happening and just avoiding it and then looking the other way. So it's a joke from him. It's somebody who's obviously doesn't know what the hell is going on and is trying to push a narrative that Israel is doing no wrong and continuing to be the forefront of democracy, which is a joke. I wanted to just address another thing, is that for a lot of the people that voted yesterday, like myself, that we talked about, we voted as a protest vote, and some people even stayed home, which I really wish people didn't stay home, but I put my vote as a protest vote towards the two-party system. We saw that, like to Southern's credit, that Kamala didn't go out of her way to make it where she could even pander towards the Palestinian community, showing that her current administration is the one that is in cahoots with Israel, helping them unalive Palestinians. We're the ones, as Americans, paying for all the weapons that are going over there, all the military aid that's going over there, and whatever funds that we're still sending over to Israel. That's on us. That's on our current administration. So that's another thing. She could have done something, but she could have said a lot of things that could have maybe pandered to the Palestinian voters or the Arab or Muslim voters, but she didn't do that. So again, that's where maybe the failure is. And even then, people who did their protest vote or voted third party didn't even make up 0.8%. Mm-hmm. So even then, it didn't take away from the vote. I'm not saying anybody here said that. I heard that from other people on the platform on different lives, saying it was really the Arab and Muslim voters' fault in Michigan. That was one district, and that's really horrible to say. It was one district. It wasn't the whole country. It wasn't 20 million people voting. It wasn't 100 million people voting. It was literally just one district that people are trying to blame. So that's really what I wanted to point out, that I hope it's not the sentiment that's being pushed upon. It's really, like I said, it's one section of people that saw that their representative that they wanted to vote for wasn't trying to apply anything towards them. That's really how it looks. I'm trying to be blunt as I can. That when people wanted to vote for Harris, she didn't come up with anything that would make them vote for them. So that's why. And people maybe then voted for Trump.
Real quick, when you say people, you say in general people, you felt like people overall? In
general. Not, I'm talking about as a general whole, as a general populace.
Like, so you're feeling like she did not have a kind of a clear platform on what she was standing on as compared to Trump.
It was just more or less because of the rhetoric. If it was always that, okay, this is bad that's happening in Gaza, but I'm always going to support Israel. It's like, okay, then you're still it's some zero. It's what's it called, some zero game. Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's like you're coming back to square one. We're not getting anywhere. You're still sticking on the status quo. So that's all it is. I'm not talking about any demographic, by the way. I'm not attacking anyone.
Yeah. No, I just want to make sure.
I'm going off the general populace and how they felt. Even then, like, it's really, when it comes down to it, why did we see what we saw, right? Why did we see this happen? And I would say the blame is strictly on her campaign. If her campaign did better, we would maybe see a better outcome. That's it. And I'm not taking away blame from Trump or from the right. Absolutely, they had their own horrible rhetoric that they were spewing against the Black community and Latino community, and even in the Muslim community. I'm surprised any Arab or Muslim people, as myself, voted for him. Right? He is literally the epitome of anything that's going to save America. So that's my viewpoint. I don't want to take so much time.
No, thank you, fam. And I may come back to you with a follow-up on why people in the Arab community did vote for him, and they voted for him pretty strongly, actually. And you know, when I looked at some of the polling from Dearborn and some of those areas, it was there. He took like 40% of the vote. So it wasn't that even Jill Stein had like 80% of the vote in that. You know, it was very split between her and him. So I do want to come back to that, but let me let Jamal jump in with the opening comment. My brother, how are you, fam? Talk to me.
Good morning. First, I'm going to say this. If you are a marginalized identity in this community and you are feeling raw and rubbed this morning, I'm sending you a ton of love. I'm sending you a ton of just love and hope. Smitty, I am normally way more articulate than I am going to be now, but I want to be clear that I am furious. Okay. And I got all the smoke today. All of it. Every bit of it. I don't want to hear any excuses from people claiming to want solidarity, yet putting someone into the White House that does not care about any of us. I don't care the rationalization of it. I'm not interested in the explanation for it. I don't want to hear it. I want to be clear. There are three demographic groups when I looked at the data: white women, Latinos, and leftists that helped this bigot and racist and wannabe fascist assume the White House. Now, we can try to sidestep all of it as much as we would like. But to the extent that I'm going to be gaslit while there are people posting and celebrating Kamala's loss, irrespective of the impact that it will have to people with disabilities, to Black people, to people of the LGBTQIA plus community, to women, I'm not giving way on the sidewalk or excuses for those people. And then some of them have the audacity in this moment to say, now we can organize. If you think by any stretch of the imagination that I want to be in community with you, you are delusional. 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 I want nothing to do with people that are willing to gamble the rights and freedoms of other people for virtue signaling. And you don't have to like what I say today, but to the extent that you think that I'm going to protest with you, you're nuts. Nuts. Not happening. Folks, let me tell you something. People have bent themselves into pretzels trying to normalize the crap that they are saying. Whatever. Insofar as I'm concerned, in this moment, if you are a Black person in this country, be safe. Be very safe. Be mindful of how you're moving and what's going on. Smitty, I know you know me. I am so mad that I am vibrating over here. Vibrating. If you think for 1 second, and I'm not talking about everybody, but those of you running around gloating saying, I told you so, are doing so on the necks and backs of people that are going to be harmed by a second Trump presidency. Don't mistake this. I, as a black person in this country, am furious. But more importantly, after what I've seen today, I am disgusted. Disgusted. And I don't care how people want to binge stretch or rationalize what happened last night. You're doing so on the necks and the backs of people with intersectional identities and marginalized identities. And so you got what you got. I'm looking, my grandmother used to say this, and I'm going to close, Smitty, on this point. My grandmother used to say, people have to touch the pot to know that it's hot. May the pot be hot enough that you understand fully.
All right. Thank you, Jamal. Appreciate you, fam. Appreciate that perspective. I think a lot of folks are feeling the same way and was looking for somebody to articulate it. So again, if you're new to my live, we're going to have people with different opinions, different perspectives that can hopefully resonate with folks in the audience, right, that are listening. So you may not like it, but it's probably something you should hear, right, in both scenarios. So we're going to keep on. We're going to go to Nader. Nader, thank you so much, fam, for spending part of your day here with us. Your analysis on the election.
Yeah, so first of all, good morning. I think it's still morning. Everyone. Thanks, Smitty. Thanks for the live that you held last night. Thanks to Nichelle for the live she held last night. Smitty, one of the exit polling statistics that came out last night after your live ended, and we shared it in Nichelle's live, was in the exit polls, it came out that 34%, for the first time since 2004, 34% of voters were independent, which was tied with the 34% of Republicans.
Wow.
And more than the 32% of Democrats.
Wow.
There were more independents as per the exit polls, that more independents voted than Democrats. So that should say a lot about people like Tony. Tony identified as I think he said he was an independent. So that right there. So we have to look at that when we ask why, or the other thing is, Kamala, she had a very short period, probably the shortest period of any candidate, ever in history to run, to campaign. And, one thing that I noticed was that she promised things but didn't really explain how or why that would work for a lot of people. So in the real estate community, for example, when she wanted to increase, aid to buy homes by $25,000, so many people. I'm also a licensed agent, so I hang with a lot of people at my Coldwell Banker office as well, and a lot of people said, "Hey, so now we know that housing is going to go up $25,000 at least. So how does that help the buyer? And maybe it does, but how? Because that kept coming up. And whether some of these counter arguments were valid or not, they kept coming up. And if you look at, a network like Fox News, which has a much, regardless of whether it's mainstream or not, or I can't stand it, but, or if it's viewed as entertainment, they have a higher viewership than CNN and MSNBC combined. And people, I had my next door neighbor, by the way, I went out to get groceries. My next door neighbor, he's a Trump supporter. And I don't talk to him about politics. And he saw me with my bag of groceries. He goes, "Hey, I bet you're going to be happy that those groceries are going to be cheaper." And for the first time, I looked at him and I said, "It's a very bad day." It's a very bad day, in my opinion. He said, but he's going to end the war in Gaza. I said he's all for flattening Gaza. And I just walked into the house, and he said, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry," and I walked into the house. So there are a lot of reasons. I think she didn't explain how. When she talked about what's happening in Gaza, she said she was going to work hard to end the war, but she didn't explain how. And when you combine that with wouldn't change a thing that Biden did, then, I think you need to explain something a little bit more to give some people hope. Something. Give them something. When you deny somebody from speaking in the DNC, and it probably wasn't her personally, for all we know, maybe she didn't even know that was even happening. Mm-hmm. But when the perception is that that's what's happening, then, if you don't come out and speak about that later, once you find out that the perception is people are upset that person was denied to speak, then maybe you should have come out and said, you know what, maybe that was a mistake. Maybe, something. There's just that there was nothing, of substance there. There was a lot of excitement for her. I mean, we saw the number of the campaign donations that she got, the support. I mean, it's phenomenal. Hundreds of millions of dollars just like right away, and everybody thought, oh wow, this is powerful. However, I think that money, when big money comes in, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to equal to votes. Mm-hmm. I think it's not definitely, I think the number of independent voters, the 34% equal to the Republicans and more than the Democrats. I think there's something there. The Arab vote, obviously, the people that wanted to vote third party vote didn't create any kind of dent. Right. It leads me to believe that maybe, I don't have evidence of this. I don't know what the polling shows, but it leads me, in Dearborn, you have a lot of people that voted for Trump. But nationwide, I don't know if that's the case. As far as the Arab American or Muslim American vote, it's hard for me to believe that it would, maybe, but I think there's just a lot of reasons there. With Jamal brother, look, I agree with so much of what you said, and I'm with you on a lot of it. I do believe, however, that we have to have a discussion as the next few days come out. I understand. I promise you, I understand your anger. I have anger on so many levels for so many reasons, but I think that it's important for us to always try to keep that a lane open so that we can get to know one another and work with one another, and hopefully we can do that in the near future, because I think that we need to educate one another and to listen to one another and to get to know one another and work together for something better. I think out of everything bad, something good comes out if we work towards it. And that's really all I had to say. I appreciate you. I gotta all right, Nader, and go back to work.
Yeah, thank you, fam. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. I had a question.
Go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead.
I just want to know, what did Trump, because I don't think we're using the same measuring stick, and that's concerning for me. Because there's consistently this narrative, well, she didn't say enough, she didn't explain how, blah, blah, blah. Trump didn't explain how on anything either. The man has had a whole ass decade to come up with a healthcare plan, and he still doesn't have one. He has concepts of a plan.
I agree.
And we could go on and on. So I think it's very unfair that we consistently bring a measuring stick for this woman.
I'm not.
Never applied. Hang on. That's never applied to him. And the same is true when we're talking specifically about the Arab American and the Muslim American demographic. In that, yes, there was a segment, at least we know, in Dearborn that came out largely for Donald Trump. What exactly did he say to the Arab American population or the Muslim American population that would garner their vote? Because she, to me, showed more empathy for the demographic than he did. You yourself just said he wants to flatten Gaza, and I know that is a conflation of Arab American, Muslim American, and Palestinian. I'm saying that for the purpose of this dialogue specifically. If in fact Gaza was a driving force for Arab Americans and Muslim Americans, why then does it make sense to go and vote for a man who says he wants to flatten Gaza and whose son-in-law came out and said that they're basically planning to build on the warm bodies of people in Gaza?
Yeah, I didn't vote for him.
I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying.
No, I agree with you.
Can you tell me what was said that supports this? Because I don't understand it.
I agree with you. I promise you I agree with you. I don't think it's about what was said. I don't know. I honestly don't know because I would never vote for him. But and I can't stand him, of course. But what I would say is that I think that if somebody was to vote for him, then maybe it's to punish one administration, believing that there's no difference between them on this issue. That's the only explanation that I have in my head, is that there is no, if I believe that there's no difference at all between them, then I'm going to punish one of them because that's the one that's in power now, even if she does not have the power in her hands alone, but as an administration, as a Democratic Party, as whatever. I'm trying to answer your question. I can only guess.
I would love to encourage you all to just bear in mind, and I know that for a lot of us, Gaza and Israel is a huge issue. It was not the deciding factor in this race. It was not. It just wasn't, guys. And that's just the numbers. Most Americans are voting because of the economy. Most Americans are voting because of immigration. And Donald Trump used a fear tactic, this notion, these numbers that when you look at them, they sound insane. There's 14,000 unalivers roaming America who are illegal. Do y'all know there are 7 million American unalivers roaming? 7 million. I'm going to say that number one more time so we can hear it. 7 million American men have done assault on women. 7 million, and somewhere around 6 million a year commit unalivings. But what Trump did was he did a number where he made everyone very afraid of the big bad. But it's actually not a big bad. It's not a huge bad. The notion that Trump's going to deport mass deportation. As you guys know, illegal immigrants pay almost $100 billion in taxes. I'm going to say that again, almost $100 billion in Social Security and in Medicaid. The amount of money it would take to deport that many illegal aliens is
real quick. We call it undocumented immigrants.
Sorry, undocumented immigrants. Thank you. To deport 360. It costs over $800 billion to deport this many undocumented immigrants in America. The numbers never math. Donald Trump said everyone else says he did. He never did what he said. He said he's going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. He only built 2% of the wall, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. You know who did pay? You know who did get Mexico to pay for immigration? Joe Biden actually got $1.5 billion from Mexico, while Donald Trump got not a single dollar. Donald Trump has delivered on practically no promises. But he's a scam artist. He's a boaster. He says he'll do things. He does not do things. But Donald Trump tells people what they want to hear.
Over to blue states and from Florida to blue states, then it would have to actually house them and care for them, and yet they still did it. They did it out of spite. They did it to send a message to their base. They did it to be racist and xenophobic. They did not give a shit about how much money it was actually going to cost the American people. They were making a point of who they saw as being worthy of social support, worthy of acceptance within society and a pathway to citizenship, and those who were not. And they were also trying to punish states that were more welcoming to people who happen to have who happen to not fully have their citizenship or legal status in this country. So I don't necessarily agree with you on that point, because we've seen time and time again that they are willing to spend astronomical amounts of money to simply do what they want and meet a racist agenda rather than actually meet the needs of the populace.
Let me go to, I know the show.
I'm gonna drop. I appreciate.
All right, thanks, Nader.
One of you. Thank you, guys.
I'm gonna drop too. I gotta head out. Thank you all for having me. Smitty, I've been in a couple of your lives. You are one of the brothers doing the work. You are one of the brothers doing the work. Y'all be good. And thank you all for engaging so wonderfully.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. All right, I think the show wanted to jump in.
So I was waiting for this, a more cohesive breakdown. I think this adds value to the conversation. I think what we're doing today and what we're going to continue to do is we're going to talk about, obviously analyze the why, or how did we get here. But we do have more information about the what. And more specifically, really the who. And so NBC has come out with a report, and there were several other reports like it, 5 takeaways from the election from last night. The big takeaway here is the Latino community, which, according to the research, make up 12% of the electorate. And yet Trump won 45% of support from the Latino voters nationally. And CNN was just breaking down how it wasn't just a, isolated incident. It seemed to be consistent across the board with states. They are talking about political gravity kind of catching up to Senate Democrats. Again, thinking that, I know we've been talking about the top of the ticket, but there were seats that were lost in the House, and the Senate races are now, so you have Republican at the top of the ticket, and now the legislative branch is majority Republican right now. Votes are still being decided with that. So there was a little bit of feeling like we kind of had it in the bag in terms of Senate seats, and that didn't turn out to be true. This is something that I heard that was really, really interesting. So the women vote, the gender gap has been talked about a lot. However, for every gain, and I don't know if some people saw these little TikToks where people were doing, like, look at me, I'm voting, for Harris to cancel out my MAGA grandma or my MAGA grandpa or my MAGA dad, whatever. I don't know if a lot of people saw those. That was kind of like a little bit of a trend for the last few days. So the numbers are literally identical, Smitty. For the 54% of women that came in, there were 54% men, so it almost literally canceled it out in terms of like where they landed vote-wise. So I thought that was interesting. And while there were gains with white women and college graduates on the Harris side, again, I just talked about the fact that Trump made that up with the non-college educated and white male. The other thing that's really interesting is that he gained tremendously, and we've talked about this, men across demographics under the age of 30, winning 40% of that population compared to 49% for Harris. The fourth issue that has been talked about for years now was women's, autonomy, and that not being as big maybe of an issue as what the Democrats had banked on it being. So we are starting to kind of see a little bit of a framework of at least who voted. And I don't think we know yet the fundamental reasons as to why. But I honestly think, Smitty, just based on the short time that we've been hanging out together, the lives that I saw prior, my lives that I didn't end until it was almost 3 a.m. After you. And I haven't slept, just kind of getting the feel of what's on social media. And I don't know how to do this. I think you're one of the perfect people to kind of help manage this. I don't care what people say. And just hearing some of the rhetoric that doesn't seem to be aligning for a lot of us is the misogynistic and the racial part of it. Now, again, to your point, how big of a deal? Not sure yet. There's not a poll that says, hey, by the way, did you not vote for her? Because there's no poll to say that. So we're just kind of gleaning from the data that we're looking at. And I do think that it's going to be an important conversation, or context-wise, to have as we're talking about this. Because when you start to look at the numbers and you have people who say, well, I was very offended by the rhetoric. And I thought that was a great conversation, little segment that you had with Tony, who was up here earlier. Again, not pushing him, but just kind of trying to get an understanding. If you're offended by, let's say, the Democrats, he was using Democrats, just as a general, about rhetoric that seemed inflammatory to you. Of course, the immediate pushback from many of us are going to be, well, hold on a second. You're not offended, by this over here. So I think when you start going point by point, metric by metric, there is going to be an undercurrent that's got to be discussed. And how big of that undercurrent is the fact that she was a black woman is yet to be seen. There is no poll for that. The scales. So I want to make sure as we go forward and have these conversations and that's why I keep repeating what the data is showing us, so that we're placing, I don't want to say the blame, but so that we place context on what voting bloc, shape the election results as they are. To come out flat out and say, oh my gosh, it was all white women, or oh my gosh, it was, the uncommitted, oh my gosh, it was the third party. The numbers simply do not support that. The only state that Jill Stein got over 1% was Maine. And by the way, that state went blue. And actually, the bigger number, or the surprise third-party candidate, I think, was the Libertarian, Chase Oliver. And so that was surprising to see. No one really broke past 1%. So again, in the context of these conversations, I think that's important to make sure that we're reminding people of that. So that's all I wanted to add, that as we're talking, more and more numbers are coming in, as numbers are being counted, and I think it adds value to the conversation.
Absolutely. Let's go to Tailpipe. I definitely want to get your perspective. I know you mentioned some analysis last night, and we were like, hey, let's maybe hold that until today. Well, now it's confirmed. I would love for you to share your analysis with the chat, and then we'll go to Queen K, get her perspective, and then I will interject with some questions and some thoughts as well.
So there's a lot. Hi, Nichelle. There's a lot to unpack with the previous comments that were made, and be very cautious of the data that we get. Don't ever let your enemy tell you about your side, is the best way to put it. The media has consistently lied to people for the last 20 years at its bare minimum. So when they're telling you that the two-party system, which is what they want to keep propped up, and they're not telling you about the data, or they're not polling for the data that shows the disaffected voters, like Nichelle said, the people who have voter apathy, for example, there's no polls for that. She's 100% accurate, right? But we can draw reasonable inferences. We can use deductive reasoning that after one whole year of on-sale slaughter of brown people, of Arab people, of Palestinians, this affected how she was voted for or not voted for in the state of Michigan, for example. When I touched down in Detroit, and I gave this example before, probably within 4 to 5 hours of being there, I said, she's not winning this state. There's no possible way. There's no way. Based off of, again, anecdotal for its moment, but it happened to be right. I could easily be a broken clock. When I got to Milwaukee, I said, without a doubt, she's not winning this state. If she does, she doesn't win it by much. When you superimpose that in Ohio, for example, when you look at the data, Nichelle, when you look at the people who, let's go with identity politics, let's go with our people, let's go with black people. Let's just say that we have it in the bag. She's guaranteed to get those voters. That's the data that's going to tell you why she lost. Because when you look at black males who came out and voted, and you look at the way that they voted in proportion to her and Trump, it does not make sense that black males would vote. Again, if they're only voting based off of identity politics here, it does not make sense that they would vote for Donald Trump as opposed to her. Now, you are correct when you sit and say misogyny, misogynoir. I would agree with that. The question is scale in any business. What is the number? If it's 1%, is it 1% of a million or 1% of a billion? Because if it's 1% of 100,000, I'm not really concerned with it. 1% of a billion, I got to take a look. And in this case, black males decided to vote for Donald Trump in larger proportional numbers than they did in the last election. This was a rebuke of the Democratic Party. You might not like it or agree with it, but as a consultant, when the founders of a company hire me, when the funders of a company hire me, I'm not looking at the staff. And in this case, I'm not looking at the voter base. I'm looking at the elected leaders. And one of the number one things I'm doing is I'm firing the elected leaders in this case. And there is going to be no consequence for the Democratic Party who ushered in Donald Trump. You cannot have the people who are willing to crash the plane get you to safety. I find that to be out of this world for us to sit here and debate why it is that he won, as opposed to debate why it is that the people in power let him win. Because that's what they willfully made a choice when they acted in Palestine the way that they did. They willfully made a choice with the border crisis the way that they did. They willfully made these types of choices. They willfully made a choice when they lied about the unemployment numbers. They made these choices and they face no consequences for it. And that is a problem. We need to look internally. We need to look in the mirror. Before I go, I tell people all the time, I'll give you an example. I am pro-life. I am pro-life because of the things that I have seen in war. When you watch a child be eradicated in front of your eyes, it will change you. However, I don't believe I should be able to tell Nichelle what to do with her body. So from an internal standpoint, to fellow Republicans, what I tell them, you're not really pro-life, because if you were, you would fund welfare. The number one reason why women get abortions is because, guess what? They can't financially support it. So if that life is as precious as you claim that it is, you would fund and support welfare. Their machinery shuts down because it's something that they've never heard of before. So before I go to the Democratic Party and say, you know, you should be pro-life. No, I'm going to go internally to the Republican Party and hold them to account first. But I don't say that as a full-fledged Republican because I have absolute democratic values. I'm more of an independent. And from an independent standpoint, which is what swayed this election, people rebuked her because they said, as a Democratic Party member, as a Democratic vice president and president, you should have held your party and you should have held this nation to account to force and bull rush through policies that would have been beneficial to the masses. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump is going to have policies that are beneficial. I think we can both agree with that. We can both agree that she is held to a different standard than he is. 100% agree. He's a fucking idiot. People voted for him because he is the grenade in the system that they hate. They hate the system. And to them, she represents the system. And that's what we need to understand. We might have the affinity that we want to elect our sister. I told Angela Rye this last night when she was at Howard. We might want her to be in office, but the way that the people view her is completely different. They view her as the system. They view her as the problem for why the last 30 years are the way that they are.
So let me jump in, Tailpipe. So I have a couple thoughts, and I think I want to kick it to, I kind of want to kick it to Jamal, get his perspective on what you said. And then I want to go up to Queen K, get her first comment. I think, you know, some of the things that, one thing, what you said reminded me of something Muhammad Ali said, you know, as it relates to, you know, the amount of racism that there may or may not be, right? And it may be very much resonate with what Jamal said in his opening comment, you know, where Muhammad Ali said, look, you know, if there are 1,000 snakes and, you know, they're coming into your room and 100 of them are poisonous and the rest are harmless, are you going to try to figure out, you know, are the 100 poisonous or not, or are you just going to close the door? right? And so I don't blame any black person or any minority, for instance, for any marginalized group for just closing the door today, right? And saying, look, I don't care if it's 1%, 2%, 3% or whatever. I'm closing the door. I completely understand that. And so I think, sometimes we try to quantify things that even if it is 0.01%, it doesn't matter. And same with, misogynoir as well, right? Whatever the percentage is of that, it kind of applies the same way. So I don't blame anybody for just saying, hey, you know what? It's time for me to close the door on this, and close the door on this conversation, either temporarily or not. So I totally understand where folks are coming from. With that being said, let me go to Jamal. And Jamal, your perspective, maybe if you could, on what Tailpipe said, then I want to go to Queen for her opening comment.
So, Smitty, I just want you to know that you petty, because I know you did that because you know how I'm thinking already. All right.
No, I mean...
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
too
call
much
you
credit. Give me too much credit.
I'm sorry, Smatty. I want to start with something. I want to start with something a little different, just because I want to thread a needle. Nichelle, I heard your point about the data, and I would just thread the needle and say 14 million people less voted this time. And so the suggestion that I get the point you were attempting to make, I just want to push back a little and say my perspective is like, people also didn't vote. And I think that there was a lot of noise in the system that centered what I will call, or what people are attempting to call, accountability. And so I heard Tailpipe talk a little about accountability for a system that people don't like. My pushback in that regard would be, there are people that are so interested in their own safety that they don't see collective safety. And so they are willing to risk other people's freedoms. They are willing to risk other people's safety. They are willing to engage in what I consider hostile, hostage-taking voting to manipulate their way without a care at all in the world to the harm that is caused. Now, to the extent that the vice president was held to a different measuring stick, I think that we all agree that. And I think when I juxtapose that analysis with the analysis of how people turned out or did not turn out, there are groups of people that thought to themselves, I want to punish people. Because, of course, as the old folks would say, misery loves company. If I can't be happy, nobody should be. And so, in this election, I don't know that Donald Trump represents a grenade, because 14 million people didn't vote, right? Like 14 million less people voted. As much as people were disgusted between the back and forth, the vitriolic speech and talking that happened between people, and the vice president pushing back on some of what I think she did or didn't do in the perfect way. But I also understand that perfection is a tool of white supremacy culture. It is a tool of white supremacy culture to expect perfection. And people expected perfection from the vice president. And so when we have these conversations, I'm always open to saying, yep, there were a variety of variables. I'm not going to deny that at all. But I also want to be very clear that I am not giving way on the sidewalk to what I believe was absolutely and fundamentally misogynoir, a duality of expectations, and an intellectually lazy concept of revolution. Period. And again, I want to say, this is Jamal, this is nobody else on the panel, because I'm going to stand on big business on this today. Don't call me asking me to post, say, or do anything, because I ain't got it. At this point, I'm closing my door and taking care of people in my community, and I'm sorry that it feels that way. And I know I'm probably saying some stuff that folks want to say but are scared to say, but I'm going to say it loud. I'm taking care of me and mine, just like people, when they went to that ballot box, did for them and theirs.
All right.
Can I respond really quick since he addressed me? Real quick, since he addressed me, I love you dearly. I just want to say this really quick. I have not. I didn't go to sleep. I probably should be asleep right now, but I am. Please don't let the and I know Jamal, I know you know this, but I'm saying this collectively because I think it needs to be said. Please don't let my analytical and let's look at the data and let's be all professional fool you. So I want to say that to other people as well, and I think Smitty kind of alluded to that. I understand there's a tendency, especially on lives like this, to try to keep things in check, and we want to be kind to each other. But there's a lot of pain here, right? My way of coping, now I'm fighting back tears. My way of coping is to somehow, when my daughter came to me today and had tears in her eyes, and I was trying to explain to her, what was going on, when I had a conversation, a very painful conversation, literally right before I got on this live with my sister, who is Gen X like me, just having a fundamental breakdown. My best friend, is texting me and calling me. So please don't let our demeanor fool you, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear. What does this mean for my life? What does it mean? And so I would also encourage people not to gaslight those that are feeling this way. I also saw that on some of the lives. What are you upset about? What's the problem? You'll be fine. What do you mean you're going to be... What do you mean you're scared? What do you mean you're harmed? You'll be fine. We were fine the first time under Trump. And so just acknowledge when you're seeing and you're hearing people like Jamal who express it in his way, or when you hear Southern, like Smitty said, you may not maybe get it, but a lot of us are hurting. Like, please don't let the calm face and intellectual, as my friend Critical just said, the intellectualization of the data, and let's talk about the stats. Don't let that fool you. I haven't been to sleep. I am worried. I've got family members we're all having the conversation, and I never thought I'd have to have. What does this mean for our community? Are we safe? Are we okay? The girls in our family, they're all texting back and forth. That's a real conversation that's happening. So I just wanted to say that really quick, Smitty, because I don't want to see people gaslit or feelings like, why are y'all being so dramatic? I'm kind of seeing some of that leaning in the comments, right? So we're all processing it different ways. So I just wanted to jump in and say that.
Oh, thank you, Nichelle. Let's go. Let's get, we can get Queen's opening comment, if y'all don't mind.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. I think I was going to say something, but I need to address Jamal and understand that when I went to the box, was not taking care of my own, right? And I don't know what that meant or what that insinuates, so I'm going to take it the way I'm going to take it and don't want to elaborate. And Michelle and I have talked about this. When you look, instead of standing at a podium, and when you're asked what you're going to do, and mind you, I did not vote for Trump, I got to throw that out right now. So I'm a public school educator. So when he won the first time around, I worked in an urban area with many undocumented students, right, that were 17, 18 years old age. And I walked in, and I had to watch myself, in tears in my eyes to explain to my students that you're going to be safe here in our public schools. All right. So I didn't celebrate then, and I worried then, and I worry now. Now, with that being said, I live in a state that's predominantly a blue state, right? So when I walked in and voted, I could not ethically and morally vote for someone who a week prior to that, a woman stood in her eye and said, let me vote for you. I want to vote for you. I was also at the DNC when she would not, and they would not, hear our voices. This is a party of the people, right? And so we felt marginalized by both parties. And Michelle and I have spoken up. You could have broken it down when people ask you about policy. Say, listen, he inherited Obama's economy and it thrived. And we inherited a pandemic, a post-pandemic economy. And break it down, because we've spoken, Michelle, you and I, about this. The typical American has a lack of knowledge of economy. All they know is, I'm walking in, a dozen eggs costs $2 today, tomorrow it costs $6. And that's how they measure their economy. But this country is in trouble. It really is. And I don't think when I stood there, it wasn't about being Palestinian. It was being about American. I don't think either party spoke to us. And so with me, I'm looking for a way out. I'm looking for a third party. And now if I was in a swing state, I would have voted for Harris, right? Because I would not have let him win. But ethically and morally, when going to that voting box, people like me could not vote for her. We couldn't. And it hurts because it's every day. And this isn't history. We're talking about present day society. I would never want anyone to be blocked out or feel that I'm not with them because I am with them.
Right.
But we're talking about, we have family there. I have aunts, I have uncles, I have cousins who have passed away. And when she stands at a podium, she's not just slapping me in the face, she's punching me in the face when she says that her allegiance to Israel will be unwavering. Unwavering. Meanwhile, we're counting numbers of bodies. We're getting calls every day, and we're begging to be heard, and we were not heard. So that's not just a marginalized Iowa, it's a one topic. Now, with that being said, we have that, we have our economy, we have our inflation, we have our healthcare system, we have kids who were promised you're gonna get, a forbearance and excuse it for your loans. Nothing was delivered. All they had to do was come out and explain to the people who don't know. This is the economy we inherited. We're trying to work with you. Here are the policies I have. Honestly, I think they set her up. I don't know why they would give her a month, 2 months to be a candidate. I don't understand it. I don't think she was prepared to answer those questions. And I think so the DNC did her wrong. So when you come out and say marginalized people, when I look, they won Pennsylvania. I don't know why African-American males would vote for her. I don't know why Latinos would vote, for him. Latinos would vote for him. I don't get it. This does not add up. So when you talk about collecting data as a representative sample, I'd like to see how they collect that data, because this does not make sense to me. It does not. You have representative. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you. Let me go up to Chad. Hey, Chad, appreciate you coming up. What are your thoughts on the election?
I haven't heard what everybody said because I just got on a few minutes ago, but my perspective from being within the white community, first off, Trump should be in prison for his felons. None of us would be walking free. I can't stand Trump. I never have when I lived in New York in the 80s, all that stuff. With that being said, the white community is taught, even if you're not a flat out, full-fledged racist, you're taught that if there's equality among all ethnic groups, that is reverse racism. The last time a Democratic president won the majority of the white vote was in 1964 with Lyndon B. Johnson. Okay? This last election, the exit polling numbers showed that 70% of white women voted for Trump, yet they don't like the policies on their health care taken away from them. They still voted for him because in their mind, they don't want to see black men or women or brown black men or women have the same rights as them. Okay? And 60% of white men did the same thing. A white man don't want to see a black man be their boss in corporate America. They can act like they're not racist, but they've got a lot of bigoted ideology and all of that. And all these white people that are extremely racist think all white people think like them. So when someone like me is standing in the group, a circle of people like that, let's say down in the Ozarks in Missouri, they say exactly what is on their mind. And I keep that in my head, and I see the way they act around white people versus the way they act when a black person comes up and talks to them, like let's say in the grocery store. Their demeanor changes, but not so much so that you'll point to them and say, that person doesn't like you. Whereas I can tell that that person doesn't like someone who isn't like them because their demeanor changes just enough to where I notice it because they've been around me talking differently and acting, behaving differently. The Democratic Party relies on the black and brown vote, which is really good, but they have taken black and brown people for advantage to get the vote. They don't pass any policies that protect the black and brown community or incentivize jobs coming into black and brown communities. I live in Kansas City, Missouri, and anybody from here knows the red line is Troost Avenue, and you can see that. On East Troost, there's nothing. On West Troost, you got downtown and all this stuff building up. It's a real deal. Yeah, even if you go to an all-white school in rural America, that's why they vote Republican. You're always taught and told how great you are, to take pride in who you are, which there's nothing wrong with that, but their underlying message behind that is because you're white. You know, I've seen it. I lived in small town America and all this and that, and that's something that the white community needs to address. On TikTok, for like up to the last month, you hear all these influencers talking about, oh man, the women are going to really change the election. The numbers are high. Women are outvoting men by 50% in this state, 40% in that state. It didn't say who they were voting for. Well, it comes out to show who they voted for. All these influencers like, oh, Kamala's going to win. She's going to win. Look at all these women. No. You got these suburban white women living in $5 million homes 10 minutes from my house. They'll smile in your face. They might have an all equality sign in your yard, but that's just a front. That is the new, those signs you see in the yard of these rich people that are white, you know, like Black Lives Matter, LGBT, Community Matters, and all this and that. That is the new bed sheet. Okay? Don't take it for granted that they actually stand up for anybody that isn't white, especially white men. I talk about it all the time. I get in arguments with white people all the time, and I'm told right off the bat, you're ashamed to be a white man. You're a cuck. You're racist because you talk and stand up for black and brown people. You're weak-minded because you're not standing up for my community. And I'm sitting there thinking, you think it's equal to be on a 10-foot ladder when someone who doesn't look like you is standing on the ground? You know, I'm going to keep talking about it.
Chad, you're giving us too much good stuff. Chad, give me a moment to recover. You done dropped a word. Hold on, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my friend, but you got to give it to us in doses.
I can go on all day about this. I'll make videos about it.
I know, brother Chad, but Chad, you got my heart, my eyeballs is popping. I done swung my neck all different kinds of ways. Listen, I just want to say to you, thank you.
I've been in job interviews.
Sharing that.
I've been in job interview. Yeah. Oh, I don't mean to interrupt you. I got ADHD, anxiety, all that stuff. So sometimes it just rattles on. When I get going, I can't stop unless I hit a brick wall. But I've been in job interviews and I check out people's personalities. That's how I interview them, because they interview me for my job qualities. I may be less qualified, but they'll want to hire me. And I've been in job interviews to where I've gotten hired, and a week later, the person that hired me said, I'm glad you came in for the interview. You're the only white person in the last 2 months who's applied for this job, and there's no way I'm hiring anybody that's not white. I quit that job.
All right.
I don't stand for that stuff. I've gotten in arguments for a lot of stuff based off that, and then later on I get fired, and the people that fire me says, we just don't like your kind. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what the hell you mean, you little pile of
Dr. Ines. Thank you, fam.
You know, it's
Chad, let me ask you something really quick, because I think it's important. I'm still trying to, again, I know it kind of fell a little bit flat maybe for some people, you know, when I said, and I'll say it again, and Will Smitty said it best, we don't know the percentage, right, of the misogynoir. We don't know the percentage, but we know there's an undercurrent of it there, right? How big, how much, how, you know, whatever, we know that it's there. And I love when you come into Smitty's live, there's a little banner statement that comes up, and he says it's time to have an uncomfortable conversation. That's one thing I absolutely love about his lives. And this is the part that I hope can be talked about with some respect more, because every single time someone like Jamal or me or Southern Fried or so many other African Americans specifically, I'm just speaking from my experience, when we even give an iota, just a teensy little bit of what could be, adjacent to, say, an issue, almost instantly. I mean, I literally watched it in real time on this live when Jamal and Southern were talking. Here we go again. Here we go with the black thing again. Oh, nope. It's not even about that. But here you have, and to be honest, even if Chad is talking about maybe his specific experience, and I'm gonna trust him on that, I tell you what, it certainly gives some context to some numbers that I'm looking at, right? It certainly kind of makes it go in my mind, well, why would someone who otherwise aligns, with this set of policies then go and vote and do something completely different? Why are the numbers so drastically different when the platform really hasn't changed? Let's be honest. The Democratic platform, the Republican platform, it really hasn't changed fundamentally, right? So when they're comparing the numbers to Biden, who, newsflash, is an older white guy, and they're comparing those things, it is interesting. It does make you kind of go, huh? So, Chad, I thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you, and I don't know how to ask this any other way than just to say it.
Just say it.
Are you an outlier? I know you kind of shared that, and I know how those silent conversations go, right? They think that you're, you fit a certain profile, and they start, sharing what they think you align with until you say, no, that's not me.
There's times.
Do you feel like it's a broader, like across genders, men and women, that feel that way, that kind of have that silent disdain, if you will?
The way I see it, from a white man's point of view, women are fearful, okay? Men do it and think that way because it makes them feel stronger. The way I see it, they're both cucks, if you know what I mean by that. They're very submissive.
So women are scared, but something really important about men that I think
it makes them feel stronger and emboldened.
But you said that men were saying to you, you had heard in conversations that men were saying, there's absolutely no way she's going to be our boss, our president. Like that's just not going to happen. Is that kind of ring true, consistent in your community, or?
Well, I haven't talked to anybody about this, because I even have family members starting in 2016. Don't ever talk to me because you don't support Trump. I'm like, fine, cool. Okay, whatever. I'm going based off of outside of politics, and it flies over into the voting atmosphere. Because let's be honest, your personal beliefs does affect the way you vote. But when white men talk bad or down about other ethnicities, you can see their body posture, even to where they stand up and stick their chest out. Even though they're wearing such tight pants, you can tell they probably have to sit to piss. Okay, so it's a emotional thing, because like I said, that stuff is taught at a very young age, all the way through school, in these so-called Christian churches. And it's, I mean, look, they've even got Jesus painted as a white man, and little do they know that white man as Jesus was the painter's gay lover in Europe. So, I mean, I could go on. This is one thing that kind of irritated me about the Democrats this time around. Biden had every chance ever to reverse Trump's tariffs that he put into place. He didn't reverse them. That's why prices are still high, and people don't understand that didn't vote third party or Democrat. The ones that voted Republican don't understand that. And on top of that, his second year in office, Biden added a 20% increase in tariffs on goods coming in from China. Okay, that in itself looks bad on the economy. So all these people that voted for Trump And I was astounded to hear that, what was it, 50 to 60% of the Hispanic voters voted for Trump?
Yep, 54% of Latin men. And then, so real quick, if you don't mind, Chad, let me just let BGP jump in.
I'm gonna drop myself and I'll keep listening. I might make comments and might try to tag people, but I can go on about this all day. I've even made a few videos about it today. This is one thing I noticed, and I'm getting off here on this sociological view. I was out driving around in Kansas City running errands, and I could tell who voted for Trump in the white people atmosphere. They're the ones that are extremely happy, giddy, chirpy, full of energy, and talking and can't stop with a smile on their face. They act like it's the day of Christmas. They got what they wanted.
All right,
so
Chad.
if you're out and around, and within the next week or so, and you see white people just acting extremely happy, it's because they got the president they wanted, but little do they know that policies will affect them as well. But I don't think they really care, just as long as it affects anybody else that doesn't look like them. That's how they think. That's how the underlying belly of the white community thinks, and it pisses me off. It's gross. I talk about it all the time, and people are like, if everybody thought like you, we'd have a better world. Well, no shit. I'd look at people that don't think like me in the white community as just I push them away. I'll just say that verbally or just distance wise.
Got you, Chad. Hey, thank you so much, fam, for coming up. I'm gonna drop you, but thank you so much for coming up.
You're welcome.
I just want to say one word, Smitty. Chad's absolutely right. A lot of I lived in neighborhoods where they're predominantly Caucasian, and a lot of those posts today are, "It's an amazing morning. What a beautiful morning in America. What this is." And the bulk of Caucasian, when we look at the socioeconomic status, the bulk of those that are welfare dependent are Caucasian males and females. All right. So I don't know what they're happy about. He's going to attack the welfare system. He's going to attack the healthcare system. Everything that we need is what they're going to attack. So I don't know what these people are up and happy about in arms this morning. You know, we're in for a rude awakening for the next 4 years.
All right. Thank you for that, Queen. I just saw the comment. We'll see you at the barbecue, Chad. Listen, hey, I've told you, I've told people that have been on my lives, especially with really difficult subjects, that we get through these situations with a mix of humor, sadness. It's a mix. So if you see me, how can Smitty be laughing? Look, that's just our culture. That's what we do to kind of just make sense of things. Okay. So that's on that comment. Oh man,
y'all laugh to keep from crying, Smitty. And that was a word right there. What is other?
Everything. We can go to dinner. We can go have drinks. We can do happy hour.
I had to say something.
That was a word right there.
The BBQ is reserved for us. I'm so sorry. You can go eat that bland box macaroni and cheese at your granny house or wherever. You can go eat that damn raisin in the potato salad ass shit. I don't know what to tell you, but the BBQ is reserved for us. And you just might, if you work real hard, you might could get a plate. You might could get a takeaway plate.
Say, give him a plate, girl. Give him a plate. Just give him a plate.
You know,
honey, he can get a plate.
Yeah, Chad might could get a plate. You know, but that's the best I can do. I'm sorry, I don't do no cooking.
I hear you, fam. All right, let me go to Notorious. Notorious, how you been, fam? It's been a long time, and then we'll go to Andrew.
I'm good, fam. How you been?
Good. What are your thoughts on the election?
So I came to give a little perspective as to why the Latino, quote unquote, Latino vote is what it is. I think a lot of it comes into play with the Democrats treated Latinos as a whole monolith. Mm-hmm. They didn't speak to each community of people who fall under that Latino name, right? So it's going to come back on everybody who's Latino. And even if it was more Cubans that voted and pushed that over the edge, they're not going to get the blame for it, right? It's going to be across the diaspora. People forget that with Latinos, you have white Latinos, you have black Latinos, you have native Latinos, right? And so we all have different needs and different wants and different goals, right? And I think large in part across the board, across the diaspora here in the United States, Latinos have been largely ignored in all these elections. Yep. Especially the last, 3 elections, they've been largely ignored when it comes to the concerns of the Latino community in every community, right? So that's part of the reason why they're switching up. The other part of the reason is a lot of them voted off of conservative morality. You got to remember, most Latinos are raised in the Catholic Church. So they're going to fall with that Christian conservatism type of ideology and morality. Not as many Latinos are decolonizing and walking away from the church as people think they are. So you also have that dynamic on top of it. And then within the cultures, within Latin America and all of these cultures, you have a very strong machismo culture. And that machismo culture is very much, I would rather vote for a man who is a fascist than vote for a woman, regardless, because of that. So there's kind of three things at play here: is the monolithic attitude and not speaking directly to the people. When any of these politicians come out, the only thing that they speak about when it comes to the quote unquote Latino community is the border. And even amongst that, a lot of us are for open borders, when there's a lot who are the crab in the barrel bucket type of people where, oh, well, my family came here and we had to do all these things. So then what they tell those people is, you want them to do the same things you did. You don't want it to be easier for them. And then they're like, oh, yeah, that's not fair. That's not fair to us and what my family had to go through. They need to go through the same things we did. So you add that into the mix, and that I guess the best way to say intertribal, intercommunity type of discourse happens. So then you cause that alienation between the community. So there's the infighting that happens. So I think a lot of it comes down to, one, the very, Catholicized Latinos. You have white Latinos also who are very much under the quote unquote Latino title, but very much get treated like white people because they are white, and then you have that being ignored. The needs of the Latino community and all these different diasporas aren't being addressed because, for example, Cubans here or Puerto Ricans here, they don't really care about the border issues. Most don't. Some do, yes, but that's not something that affects them. It does affect Mexicans, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians. You see how this treating like a monolith, and then the only concern that they have and that the Democrats only talked about was literally the border this whole time. And for a lot of people, neither side had good policies for the border at all. And so you're going to lose a lot of people based off of, if you're only going to talk about one thing and then talk to us like we're a whole monolith, we're all part of the same racial category when we're not. We're all part of the same ethnic groups when we're not. And we all have different wants and desires to how this country should be. So that's where you're going to see that's why you're seeing the shift. Because people are tired of feeling ignored, the machismo and the Catholicism.
Got you. No, that was a very comprehensive kind of analysis. I was, talking to Nichelle yesterday about a race in Arizona where you have Ruben Gallego going up against Kerry Lake, and then you had obviously Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and you see almost an 8-point shift where Kamala Harris is down, 4 points or so, but then Ruben Gallego is up 4 points. And so you're like, how can you have this split ticket? But from what you're saying, especially the machismo side of it, is like, hey, Ruben Gallego is a man, Kerry Lake is a woman, Kamala Harris is a woman, Donald Trump is a man. And so you have people that are splitting the ticket and voting for the two men. And you see it, straight in the data. So,
well, I mean, look at what happened with Biden. You had more Latinos go for Biden.
Yes.
And they switched over. And that, a lot of it is the machismo. Wow. They're afraid of women being in charge because of the machismo. They don't think women can handle it. They think men should be the ones in charge because men are supposed to be the protectors, the providers, the ones that deal with the wars and all of that. Women, that's not our place. You see what I'm saying? And so that plays a big role in it. Again, with the Catholicism, the moral conservatism that is within the Latin diaspora. And then again, treating us as a monolith and not talking to each group about their needs for their own communities. Because, I just moved from Texas to Colorado. So being in Texas, there was a mix of Mexicans who were pro-Trump and then who were pro-Democrat. But the biggest thing I always heard from Mexicans who were pro-Democrat was that they're not listening to us. They're not listening to the concerns of what we want. So it's kind of somewhat a protest vote, but kind of not. You see what I'm saying? And so that's where it becomes an issue. Like, Ted Cruz is not my people. He may be a quote unquote Latino, but he's not my people. He's Cuban. He's not Mexican. He's not my people. But and a lot of people forget that we are different groups of people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's strong analysis. Let me go to Andrew. I'm holding the last spot for someone that supports Donald Trump. So if you're in the request and you support Donald Trump, I'm saving that last spot for you. I know I got quite a few mutuals that want to come up. I just want to keep one space for someone that is supporting Donald Trump to hear their perspective as well. But with that, go ahead, Drew. How are you, fam?
I'm good. Chat, everyone. Make sure you're having water, food, tap the screen, share it out. Smitty's one of my favorite lives, so let's take care of him because he takes care of us. I can't complain. I mean, I think we all kind of know how we're all feeling. But there is one thing I want to try to add on to what Notorious was saying. The thing I heard most when people were going to vote was take me back to 2020 or take me back to when Trump was in office. They keep having this thought that if we put this man back in office, that it's somehow going to take us back to the 2020 era and the economy that was there. And I think a lot of people voted based on the faces of change. Americans don't like change. We've never had a woman as a president, let alone we've never had a black woman as a president. But we have had a racist, bigoted, homophobic white man in office. Americans don't want to change their lifestyle. They don't want actual change if it affects who they are as a person. Can we say it? Sure. But does it mean it's actually true? No. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people like, well, look at what Biden's done. And I just want to go back to how it was. We're never going to go back to that time, no matter how hard we try. And I think this, as a person who's been supportive of Palestine, I'll be very honest, I 100% saw Trump winning. I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want to speak it into the existence, but I 1000% saw him winning because in my mind, as we're advocating for the Palestinian plight, and I've said this many, many times, that the Palestinian plight is everybody's plight. And until people understand that, we are going to keep losing these battles. We are going to keep needing to fight that much harder just to say people are human. And, as a son of a Latina woman who voted for Trump, me and her had this huge talk yesterday because I told her, Mom, it's super disrespectful how you want to sit here and say that you're American, right? But she never wants to claim to be a Mexican American. She always just wants to claim to be American. And I'm like, Mom, by you not claiming that Mexican side of you, you are basically disowning the whole heritage that brought you here in the first place. And she's like, well, I don't view it that way. And I'm like, but you are not acknowledging the fact that you are Mexican. So how exactly is it that you're honoring the Mexican family that literally came from Mexico, was your mom, but you just want to sit up here and say that you're just an American? I think a lot of Americans have got complacent. I think a lot of Americans don't like change. And I think a lot of Americans just honestly don't care. I think that's where we are in this current state. They don't care about what's happening overseas because it doesn't affect them personally, even though it's our money that's going there. They don't care about what's happening here on the ground, trying to help the minorities group because maybe they're not actually viewing themselves as the minority. And I'll land my plane there for now.
All right. Thank you, Drew. Appreciate that.
Address one comment real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw in the comments that said, while in Mexico they voted for a woman and in other Latin American countries. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, a lot of those people are re-indigenizing in these countries. A lot of these people have higher indigenous populations. So their morals are not the same as Spanish morals in Catholicism, right? So I think people forget how the Latin American diaspora was colonized and by who, and that it was a much different colonization, not worse, not better, but a much different colonization than what the British did. And so there is a lot of mestizaje, which is to pretty much erase your indigenous identity, your indigenous values, your indigenous morals, your indigenous traditions, your indigenous cultures, and to fall in line with the colonization and fall in line because of that feeling like you're not enough. Why people don't even identify when they get here, or if they've been here for several generations. Here in the United States is much different than the Latin America diaspora. So I think a lot of times people forget that once you cross over that border, a lot of those people are no longer indigenous. They're considered Latino now. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great that you added that in, because I saw folks mentioning that about, I think her name is Claudia Sheinbaum, the new president in Mexico. So no, thank you for putting that in. Let me go.
I'm sorry, Smitty, just one thing about the hyphenation of your mother. I'm a sociology teacher. People have, and I've encountered this, have a problem with African American, Arab American, Latino American, that somehow if you hyphenate who you are, that makes you less loyal to the country you live in. So when your mother picks up, I am American, it's because she's conditioned not to say, I am a Mexican American, because then that means she's less loyal to the U.S. So that is something I've encountered in the past 27 years of teaching. Like, why do you teach these kids and allow them to say that they're Latino American? I say, well, you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, right? Or who you are. So that is something, a conditioning that I find we do to normalize and to conform to what Americans want us to say. You got to drop who you were and forge forward. You're an American and only an American.
Interesting. Thank you for that, fam. Let's go to John. John, you mentioned you voted for Trump, so I wanted to check in with you, your thoughts on why you did. And then I do want to try to get, I think we got one more Trump, I believe. I haven't had a chance to take a look. We might have a couple more Trump supporters in the request as well. But go ahead, John.
Thank you, Smitty. Thank you so much for your lives. As you know, I've been following you for over a year now. I just want to say that, first of all, I am Palestinian. I'm in deep pain for the last year. My people are being slaughtered every single day. As we speak, they're being slaughtered and dispossessed. And so I'm in pain for that. I'm Catholic. I'm Arab Catholic. I'm probably like an anomaly for most people, if you know what I mean. But I'm full-blooded, Palestinian. I'm an American. Was born here, but I have a lot of relatives back home. Not so much in Gaza, but definitely in the West Bank and in Jerusalem. I have visited there several times. I was just there last summer before all this happened. But talking about the elections here in America, I live in Maryland. I'm near DC. I live in a very blue state. But for me, the choice was really between two people only. It wasn't Jill Stein. I'm sorry. I'm not going to throw away my vote per se. I'm just not going to do that. It's between two people, Kamala and Trump. The way I look at it is that I think on the Arab Gaza issue, I actually think Trump is going to be able to stop this immediate war quicker than her. I do believe that in the short term. I actually believe that. Because I believe he's going to say enough is enough, stop it, Bibi, my friend, stop this nonsense because I'm all about peace. That's what he says. That's number one. Number two, and that's fine, you could disagree. Number two, first of all, nobody aligns with my, my beliefs, my what I like in politics and in the law. No one aligns with it. So I'm stuck with between two people that are very flawed, just like I'm flawed, just like everybody's flawed, right? I'm all about disenfranchised people. My whole race is disenfranchised. Okay, so I'm all about when I said race, I meant my heritage, my being Palestinian.
I got you.
That's what I meant. Nothing else. My point is this: that fine, that's out of the equation. Both parties stink as far as that's concerned. They both support Israel, which I'm totally against. America supports Israel, which I totally against that. Okay, but I'm stuck with these two positions, two parties that both are the strongest parties in America, and they both believe it. I can't stand it. So what I'm left with is take that out of the equation, for the most part. And what I'm left with is, well, what about other positions that they take? Not their personal lives, because neither one are perfect. So what about their positions? Okay, a strong southern border. I actually believe that Trump could do a better job with that. Okay, I believe he could do that better than Kamala. I believe that. Okay, now I just have to base upon what all the factors that I've received. Now, I've been on this live before in the past with you, Smitty, with a bunch of panel, and I've almost come to tears because I'm suffering because of the innocent people being slaughtered in my heritage, in my people back home. But I also live in America. Okay, I have a whole family here. My oldest just got married and so forth. Now I got to live in America. Okay, and so I have to figure out, well, what are the policies that will benefit America. And I do believe that his policies are more in line with what I believe. Not the racist stuff, not the sound bites that we hear all the time. No, I don't believe he's racist. That's me personally. But I know it shocks people. It shocks people, but I'm happy to talk about that too. But I want to land my plane saying that what Smitty has been doing all this time has been bringing people together to actually have a safe place to talk about these. And I commend you, people like you, and I commend you personally. And as you know, I've been supporting you, and I give you roses and all this other stuff.
For sure.
Thank you.
Smitty, please, I have to. I'm sorry, Smitty. As a Palestinian, American, Muslim, Trump should have never been anyone's choice for anything. And I'm sorry that you don't believe the racist. He's shown us. When somebody shows you who they are, stand up and pay attention. From the Latino rapist to the Muslim ban to calling people of color where I live, what do you have to lose? You're garbage. So I don't know what more he had to show you or tell you that he was. He stood on the podium that first debate and thought calling Biden a Palestinian was an insult. All right. So for me, at least, and many people in my community, Trump was not a choice ever and should have never been. And I don't believe that he's going to be stricter on the border. I don't believe that he's going to call BB Boy and tell him to stop. Right. I think he prolonged it long enough so that they can continue. I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to get worse than ever now. So that's my personal opinion. And I don't believe Trump should have been a choice for anybody. I'm surprised anyone who voted for him.
Okay. All right. Let me.
Quick question. Can I ask a question, Smitty, before we lose this talking point? Because
go ahead.
I had strong reactions to this, and first of all, thank you for sharing. And I agree. Smitty creates a safe space for us to have these conversations. So, I guess this is something I know has been a conversation, kind of a quiet conversation, maybe an uncomfortable conversation to have about allyship and maybe solidarity. And I've learned, thanks to the amazing Palestinian community and the broader Arab and Muslim community, kind of what that looks like. So I'm still learning too. So I'm asking this with full respect. I think I'm really struggling, not with your choice, because listen, there were Black people that voted for Trump. And I kind of asked the same thing, but it would be in a different way. I guess I'm struggling with you not seeing the racist overtones that Trump has. And I guess my bigger concern that kind of scares me, not to you personally, John, not to you personally, but the broader concept, this idea that I know a lot of African American people feel is that we'll stand broadly with a large swath of communities, but when it comes to policies that may support and protect our communities, it doesn't necessarily seem to flow the same way. So I'm not, the reaction that you were seeing on my face, I'm just an animated person, number one. So I'm always going to, even if I turn my camera off, I'm always going to be doing that. But what really struck me was that you talking about some of, obviously, the pain that we've all collectively experienced with the Palestinian community, and we stand with you. But then, like you said, you kind of put kind of Israel there. I've described it the same way, especially if you're an American, right? Like, and you're making your choices. We all had to make these choices. If you know that the policy regarding Israel is static, right? It's not going to change, right? It's not dynamic per se. Then you start to look at domestic issues underneath that. I guess I was really surprised you were so able to eloquently describe kind of what's going on with your community. But I'm just wondering, did that kind of become a blind spot when you started talking about domestic issues? Because everything that you talked about, I live in Texas, so border things, me as a woman, like we all have these different levels of intersectionality. Did that come into your mind at all when were you thinking more like for your own life domestically, or were you considering the broader impact that a Trump presidency could have?
Well, thank you, Nichelle. First of all, I respect you greatly. I've been following you and seeing you. I believe, 99% of what you say, and I appreciate you very, very much too, because you're very level-headed. And this is the type of format we all need more of. You know what I mean? That's why I support Smitty in the past. I mean, I'm not too vocal. I haven't even done my own lives for the last year because I've been so upset. Like literally, it's too much, But to answer your question, it's interesting. I really don't think the issue that I see is not, I don't see other people's issues, because I do. Okay, and I support the efforts to level the playing field and to make things right for all communities. I'm all about the underdogs. I'm all about the people who've been disenfranchised. I'm all about that. But I think what I see is in politics in America, there is this type of the sound bites is what catches people's attention. Okay, and so, and then if you feel connected to those sound bites, you keep it and you hold on and you go forward with it. Just like that guy Chad who came up earlier. Okay, I saw the reaction from. And I don't mean to point you out, but I saw your reaction. You're very you reacted very positively to what Chad said. So did Smitty. I laughed along with you as well too. I think it was hilarious. Some of the things he said. But my point is, sound bites work with people. It works with their emotions. But is it true? Like, I'll tell you about, one example. My daughter, I love her greatly. I love my daughters. I have 3 daughters. I love them all greatly. She said this about the Muslim, ban. Okay. I said, well, I don't think there was an official Muslim ban. And I started to talk about the history, and she didn't realize it had anything to do with, COVID time or anything like that. So she voted upon the emotion of hearing a sound bite, and that's what she used to vote. But to actually dig deeper into what was the context, what does it mean, and was it actually a Muslim ban? Because he did more than just Muslim countries, by the way. So anyway, my point is this: let's get to the heart of what people are saying and believing, versus just simply going on a soundbite, which is so catchy and hits our emotions.
So real quick,
John. I'm so sorry.
Hold on.
Okay,
Okay. I got you. I want to come back to that. Because a lot of people in the comments are. I got you, Sash. Give me a second.
I'm happy to respond to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me. Hold on.
But go ahead. I'm following Smitty. So I'm following. I got you.
Okay, let's do this. Let me go to my thoughts, and then we'll go to Rima, and then we'll bring this conversation specifically about the Muslim ban.
Not so much that, but about reducing sound bites. I got it. It wasn't just. I got it. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. My thoughts. Your thoughts on the election. We're talking about why do you think Donald Trump won?
I think Donald Trump won for many reasons. If you look, he's the first Republican president in over 20 years to win the popular vote. Not just that, we took the Senate, 80% chance we take the House. It wasn't just President Trump, it was a red wave. And I think that should send a clear message to the politicians. It sends a clear message of exactly what Kamala ran on, which is we will not have democracy threatened. She all but threw a coup in order for her to take the candidacy. She sat there saying she was going to pack the Supreme Courts because she didn't like the decisions that they made. That's pretty unconstitutional, if you ask me. She sat there saying that she wasn't going to change any of Biden's policies, but then she wanted to steal Trump's, and she didn't really have any of her own. She laughed at the American people. She sat there saying that we had no soldiers currently in active combat zones, and then had to be very publicly corrected by the combat soldiers that she sent to die. She couldn't be bothered to show up to the funerals for the 13 service members that her and Biden got unalived in Afghanistan. Hey, your turn. Thank you so much. I waited mine. I know you're used to speaking over women. It's fine. But anyway, Donald Trump offers hope for the American people. We've seen what he can accomplish in his first term. We saw the abysmal failure of Biden. Nobody likes Kamala. She has no policies. She thinks that the American people are stupid. She ran on lies that she could bring abortion back, as if that wasn't a Supreme Court decision. Trump was never against abortion. He's been very, very vocal about him being pro-choice. I read all 82 pages of her policies on her website. Half of the pages were just saying, I'm not Trump. The other half were pure lies, like saying Trump's economic policy was from Project 2025. And the reason why she felt so comfortable so oftentimes and loudly lying to the American people was because she thinks you're stupid. And I'm so happy the American people proved her wrong.
Real quick, my thoughts. Okay, all right. So I saw a couple people put misinformation in the chat. I didn't catch everything that my thoughts said, so please tell me what was. Well, and let's address it. You know how I feel about misinformation. We'll address it immediately. And I know some other folks want to come up, so I'll cycle. Give me a second. Again, most of what I heard my thoughts was saying was her opinion. Again, we're going to keep it open to everybody to have their opinion, however we agree or disagree. Okay, so let me do this. Let me let Rima get her opening comment in, and then we'll address what was said earlier. And I know some folks will also want to speak with John as well. Rima, fam, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Smitty?
Good. Talk to you. What are your thoughts on the election?
So first of all, I just want to give just precursor. I won't be able to stay up here long. I just was hearing the bullshit that was being spewed on this panel, and I'm very displeased. So when I'm echoing the sound of what the Palestinians are saying on the ground, the Palestinians that are starving, the Palestinians that are being unalived by the most technologically advanced weapons that have never been tried out on human beings. I'm speaking for them. Speaking for someone who has been sucking on the silver spoon of the United States. And that includes myself. And when I say that, that includes myself because I unfortunately live here. So it is very important that during this time, exactly what I thought was going to happen is exactly what happened. I knew that you guys were going to come online and you guys were going to speak for all Palestinians. No, you're not. And I'm here to tell, I don't know how many people are here. If it's 647, you are not allowed to, even as a Palestinian, to speak for all Palestinians. The Palestinians on the ground say this. The PFLP actually sent out a notice one day before the election saying to please not support anyone who is supporting the G side of our people. That is exactly what was said. Nothing more was said. The Palestinians on the ground have no right to meddle in American politics, nor does anyone living outside the United States of America, because I hear a lot of you British voices, Australian voices, South African voices, French voices, and those of you who live abroad having the loudest voices about American politics, not knowing what the fuck you're talking about. That's number one. Number two, John, I am from Gaza. You do not speak for us Gazan people. We do not support Trump. Trump is just as much as a vile monster as Bibi Netanyahu. But I will say this, the downfall of Bibi Netanyahu and Israel is going to come at the hands of Trump. And I'm going to tell you why. Even though he kisses their behinds, Trump has the same exact personality as Bibi Netanyahu. They are both narcissistic psychopaths. They are both going to go at each other's necks, and they will both end the destruction and be the total all destruction of both parts. And this is what Palestinians are saying. For all Palestinians or Middle Easterners here in the United States or Muslims for MAGA that supported Trump and voted for Trump, saying that he was better for Muslims, while just a few days ago, as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, the Vance and Trump party came out saying that Palestinians are taught to unalive Americans at 2 years old, and that we are animals and using us as a slur. And they said the same shit about Puerto Ricans. Yet you guys continue on and on to put this and swipe this under the rug. For all you Muslims for MAGA, you guys better be ready to pack your shit up when you've got these honky-tonk 1932 Civil War recreator cosplayers knocking at your door and unaliving your children. For those of you who are doing this, it is because you do not care and you make it seem like we do not care. Do not come up here and speak for all Palestinians. Palestinians want the freedom of themselves, but they also want the freedom for all other people, and we are advocates of other marginalized groups who suffer from any type of oppression worldwide. That is coming from Gaza. That is coming from Palestine. Palestinians are not pro-Trump, and they are not pro anyone who supports their G side, but nor do they support the G side and oppression of other groups. And that's it. Thank you very much. And what I think, Smitty, I think we are screwed either way, brother. I think we are screwed either way. The Americans, this is like going from one abusive relationship to another. Now it's just a little bit better. Oh, because he doesn't hit me, he doesn't smack me across the face, so it's a little bit better. Well, at least they don't cheat on me, so it's a little bit better. You guys are screwed until you stop being selfish. You are screwed as a human race, not just as a people. Thank you very much, Smitty.
All right, fam. Thank you for coming up. Do you want to stay up or you want to go down? Okay, she wants to go down. All right. Thank you, Rima, as always. Let me go. Let me
Can
go.
I just say something real quick, Smitty?
Oh yeah. Go ahead. My thoughts, and I want to drop down to Queen K and see if she's got anything else left. And I do want to bring there's a lot of folks that want to come up. Go ahead, my thoughts. Go ahead.
Thank you. Like I said, obviously everyone knows I'm very pro-Israel, but that being said, I would never vote for Israel's interest over my own country's, which is why I proudly voted for Trump. I find it strange that anyone would do that. And to think that we should be caring about the opinion of the people who celebrated the slaughter of Americans on 9/11 about our elections, that's a little bit strange.
Okay. All right. Thank you, my thoughts. Let's go to Queen. Queen, is there anything else you want to say?
Yes, I would. First of all,
I do want to thank you for coming up next.
Yes, there was a Muslim ban in the airport when we had doctors coming back who were on work visas. Were not allowed to come in, and so that lawyers had to go to that airport and get airports across this country to get people who are on work visas. We're talking about cardiologists, neurologists, who had visited their families and were trying to get back in, so that the Muslim man was real. As far as Zionist girl, right? When you talk about bringing back abortion, it's Roe versus Wade, my dear. All right, so that there are states right now, so state by state, there are states right now who are not allowing abortions. Those women are losing their lives because they cannot afford to go to other states where it is allowed. So it's not bringing abortion back; it's removing and allowing Roe versus Wade, which we overturned. When you talk about stacking the judges, when Obama's appointee, as a president, wanted to appoint somebody, it was the Republicans who stopped him. The person that stacked the Supreme Court was Trump. So when you want to accuse, know your history. That's 2. 3, when you talk about Trump, all right, and you would not, unalived or dancing on 9/11. I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of the lies. That didn't happen. And if you're going to go by that, the rhetoric that happened, that 9/11 is up in the air. And am I a person of a conspiracy? Absolutely. And, check out your 5 dancing soldiers, my dear. Those were dancing. There are many Muslims. Stop. I'm talking now. There were many Muslims that were unalived in those Twin Towers. So I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of the fear mongering. I'm tired of being played as this terrorist among Americans. I'm as American as apple pie, my dear. But when you complete this rhetoric of how Muslims are a T group wherever they go, it's disgusting. It will not be tolerated, not under this administration or any other administration. You understand that?
Yes, so I think that you might have misunderstood a few things I was saying. First of all, I'd like to point out that I am very, very pro-life. One of my biggest qualms with Trump is that he's not more pro-life. I hate that he's more moderate on abortion. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, when it comes to Roe v. Wade being overturned, that does not get rid of abortion. There is not a single state that has completely outlawed abortion. Every single state just about has preliminary measures to protect if there's outstanding cases, such as the mother's life being in danger, which is less than 1% of abortion cases.
We're not discussing that. I'm sorry, Steve, I'm about to drop. I know you make room. I gotta tell you.
Hold on, real quick. So, my thoughts. Give me a second. I think the show wants to address what you just said, just to make sure we have clarity.
Sure, but can I just clarify real quick something for Queen? I wasn't talking about Muslim people when I said not taking opinions into consideration. I was talking specifically when Rima had mentioned what the PFLP was telling Americans to vote on or how to vote in our election. I'm saying
she didn't say that. That's the misinformation.
I don't care about their opinion at all. The PFLP is a T organization, and anything they say should be disregarded.
We did not ask you to. She was referring to Palestinians, speaking to Palestinians.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying I find it strange that she thinks Americans should care about what anybody on this says about our elections.
Hold on. Did anyone, but let's not talk about elections. Let's not talk about both sides of the aisle. In 2023, we are on the brink of a government shutdown. I am disgusted with our government that we can't vote on health care. We can't vote on educational reform. But one thing they agree on both sides of the aisle is your Israel. All right? So don't talk about interfering in our government.
No, Kamala would be very bad for Israel.
I don't.
Smitty, can you unmute me in the comments? One of your mods randomly muted me because they hate my existence.
Okay, they hate your
existence. Hold on, give me a second.
I got, Smitty, thank you.
Hold on. So real quick. So Queen K, I'm going to let you go. I want to bring up Covey, but thank you, as always, for coming up.
And as usual, Smitty, these people give themselves more value than they are. No one hates you. That would take energy, my dear. No one hates you. Actually, you don't exist in our world. People like you are non-existent, inhumane, and the rhetoric and propaganda is disgusting. You are nothing.
That's fine. People like
that's my opinion. Your misinformation is very disingenuous. And
people
it really
like me made our existence known last night, and we made it known loud and clear.
No, those are people that are uneducated. The American people are uneducated, and you epitomize that ignorance.
Yes, insulting the American people will help you come back next time.
All right. So let me let Queen go. Thank you, Queen, for coming up. Always appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let me bring up Covey, and then let me go to actually Nichelle, if you want to address the abortion comment, and then I want to get TJ, and then bring up Covey. Give me a second.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to keep this, though. Let me say this. Obviously, Israel-Palestine is a part of the election. But I do want to keep this to the election, right? Let's keep it to the election, though, right? That's for everybody coming up, people that are going to end the requests, people that are going to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to address some misinformation regarding the abortion ban. So there are bans, 100% bans, and how people may have missed that, I don't know. I live in the state of Texas. Amanda Zarowski, that case went nationwide. She's now got a case before the Supreme Court of Texas. She's enjoined by 5 other women who had to seek care because she would have, lost her life or lost the ability to have another child. There are cases in Atlanta, Georgia, that we've talked about that were from 2 years ago that are directly related to statewide abortion bans. There's conversation about the fact when the Dobbs decision came forth and caused it to go back to the states, one of the problems with state mandated or state results type, you've got these kind of patchwork of different laws. It's caused problems like right now where Ken Paxton, our attorney general, is literally, it's easily Googleable, literally looking to penalize not just the doctors who provide care, but by women who, just like Amanda, who have to go across state lines to get that care, and trying to penalize people even who are trying to leave to get that care. So again, feel how you want to feel about, whatever policy, but it's really important to not spread that misinformation. That is.
Can you name the state that has a complete outlaw of abortion? Because that was the claim I made. Texas does not have a complete outlaw of abortion.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Don't argue with me. Argue with the facts. Argue with Amanda. Okay.
Should I look up the laws regarding abortion in Texas right now?
The Zionist girl, she did not interrupt you while you were speaking, so you can let Nichelle finish her statement.
Thank you, nephew. I know how you argue and debate, and so I don't engage in misinformation, but for the 663 people here, I encourage you please to go look up these cases. They're different for each state. What made Amanda's case so unique, she was also, part of campaign messaging. What made her situation so unique is that she was a married woman. She wanted her child. She ended up having distress and having problems with her pregnancy, and made the very difficult decision with her and her doctors and her husband that she was gonna lose her life. So, and I'm actually glad that we're talking about this, Smitty, because I think there is common misinformation regarding, termination of the pregnancy for one reason, but then also health of the mother. And I think, and you had a lot of fathers and husbands who came out and talked about this, that they weren't aware of how restrictive some abortion language is being misinterpreted. So I don't know what it is that you think that you're bringing up on the screen to share with people. But
I'm showing that Texas does not have a complete abortion ban. You lied on that.
I live here, and I am telling you that the interpretation.
I am telling you the law shows that it's available up till 6 weeks.
I tell you what, you talk to Amanda. You talk to Amanda. Like I said, I live here, and the interpretation of those laws, I don't know what it is that you think. That's the problem with people Googling stuff. And that's the problem with this ban. That was why it was such a big deal, Smitty, during this election cycle. Because, to her point, what was put on paper is not how it got translated. It's not how doctors interpreted it. So she can post up all the things that she wants, but I'm telling you, I live here, and I'm telling you, it was fundamental in our state. I live here. Everyone was talking about it because of the shock of how it was interpreted. And had she let me finish, regardless of what the quote unquote parameters are, because it was sent back to the state, there was no federal overhead. There was no federal mandate. Okay, so each state, each county even, is interpreting the laws differently.
That's fine, but my claim was,
again, I'm done with that
claim was that no state completely outlawed it, which is true. And also, I
No, hold on, real quick.
I didn't do anything.
Can I interject?
I'm gonna come in and then we're gonna
I didn't
clock
do
it.
anything.
Let her finish.
I'm not
Miss
going to go
Smitty.
back.
I also do want to say,
Hold on,
right?
hold on, y'all. Let her finish.
Can I be unmuted, please, by the way, Smitty?
Just let me finish.
Hang on, the host is trying to.
Hold on, guys, mods, wait, everybody. Wait. My thoughts is gonna finish up. I'm gonna say something, and then we're gonna clock it. We're gonna move on. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my claim from the start was that no state has completely outlawed it, which is true. Whether you want to talk about interpretation or semantics or Amanda has absolutely no case. She'll probably lose in the Supreme Court. And I will 100% say that, yes, we should prosecute people who intentionally end the life of an innocent living human being.
Okay, I'm done.
I have no problem saying
Yeah,
that.
I'm done.
Not that Trump agrees with me. Trump is pro-choice. Keep that in mind.
Okay,
Trump is pro-choice.
That's where I draw the line, Smitty. Love you. I can't. I'm not going to do that. Because just like we care about, and therein lies the problem. I'm not going to get into any type of philosophical debate with that piece of pro-life, but therein lies the problem, right? And so the interpretation, I'm going to say it again. What has happened? I don't care what her opinion is. I'm telling you what is happening on the ground. Okay, doctors, surgeons, they are literally prosecuting people. Actually, in Amanda's case, what was so unique about her case is that when she went in to go get care, there had to be a whole debate based on the interpretation and the language of the law as to whether or not they could even treat her. So I'm not about to get into a debate or an argument with TikTok troll here. I'm not doing that. But listen, the sanctity of a human life, the sanctity of a woman's life, Smitty, is where I draw the line. We can, again, debate. I didn't want to go down this road, but it is misinformation to sit here and say that people like Amanda in Georgia, people like Amanda, that's not okay. That's just, I draw the line there. I'm not okay. So
right. No, I totally got you. What I'm trying to say, what I want to jump in and say is, right, to me, a 6-week ban is a total ban. It's just semantics in the sense that you won't even know. Most women don't even know if they're expecting even at, between 4 and 6 weeks. I mean, or even, right around that time. So this is, somewhat, right? And I hear what Michelle's saying, somewhat of a semantic issue that, it's an effective total ban just because of the time, right? That's all I wanted to say, to kind of clock that. I hear you. Okay, let's go.
Hey, Smitty, can I interject something?
Yeah.
Can I be unmuted in the comments section, because some people have commented towards me, and I can't be able to respond to them. Like Southern Fry.
Yeah, I got you. Moz, can you unmute everybody?
And I would like to address actually what Southern Fry has been saying.
Well, I haven't even said anything.
Yeah. Let's let TJ come in real quick, John, if you don't mind, and cover you as well. And we've got about 25 minutes, so if we can close out strong. I appreciate all of you guys. Look, this has been a 3.5 hour discussion. We've covered a lot. Still probably have a whole lot more left to cover. But I love all of you guys for being here. Let's continue to keep it respectful. Thank you. Go ahead, TJ.
Well, I love this many, but this might get a little disrespectful, so forgive me. But and I have so many things to say, but I know I'm pressed for time. I'm not gonna try to dominate the conversation like most people up here. So here's the thing. One, I woke up this morning still a black man in this country, realizing that what America's gonna do what it does. They're always gonna vote for white supremacy. They're always gonna vote for dictatorship. And they're always going to vote for the fact that they don't care about anybody of the minority community, and especially black folks. That's number one. Number two, Jill Stein got 0.4% of the vote. If that wasn't a waste of a vote, I don't know what is. If you don't like me saying that, too bad, because you just did. You wasted your time, your effort, and your patience by voting for a woman who got 0.4% of the vote. Another thing, the whole coming up here and basically calling Smitty and whoever else a good. I'm trying to be nice when I say this. A good black person for letting you spew your bullshit is really unacceptable in my eye. I'm sorry, it's stupid. I don't understand why they come up and do this. And I hate that for you, Smitty. And I know you can't say it, and I know you probably don't feel that, but I do. We come up here and say, well, I would have voted for this, that, and other, and I care about. No, you don't. Your vote tells me everything you think about us. And I told black people from the beginning, and those were our accomplices, not allies, accomplices. We are by ourselves in this thing. And yesterday proved that we were by ourselves. Period. And like somebody said earlier, I think it was Southern. I think even in the show, black folks will come in to the rescue for every minority, any oppressive people in the world, and we will march with you. And our loyalty is to you because we do not like oppression, because we know how it is to be oppressed in this country. And yet, when it's time for us to be recognized and helped, we get nothing.
Got about 20 minutes. Let's finish strong. If y'all don't mind tapping the screen, keeping the live stable, we'll very much appreciate it. Make sure, gift the panelists if you have it. If you don't, tap the screen. It'd be great. Let's see if we can finish out strong. Thank you so much. We got a lot of emotional equity being shared, especially today. So thank you guys for being here. Trust me, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Covey, little sister, how you doing, fam?
Hi, big bro. I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing okay. What are your thoughts on the election?
So, first of all, child, I never ever in my wildest dreams thought I would agree with No Thoughts. When she said people should be punished for the unaliving of innocent life or prosecuted, I was like, dang, not me agreeing with No Thoughts, right? That's why I agree that all the terrorists that No Thoughts support should also be prosecuted for the unaliving of innocent Palestinian and Lebanese kids, right? I've never heard a person say that they're pro-life and then turn around being pro-genocide. Child, the gag. But anyways, so yes, I agree. I think all the T's who support the unaliving of Palestinian children and Lebanese children should be prosecuted, and hopefully one day they will be prosecuted, and we will see that when you guys have your own Nuremberg trials, right? So anyways, as I was saying, to the topic, I don't think that Kamala lost because of Palestine. I personally think Kamala lost because of the rise of the far right. And I think people underestimate how the far right continue to rise in momentum and how they continue gaining a lot of support on a global scale. There's an active fetishization of politics on a global scale. We see it happening in Europe. We see it happening in America. We see it happening on a global scale. And of course, a person like Maddie is going to support this because Israel is every far right political party's wet dream. The idea of an ethno-state where a minority group can be unalived, oppressed with impunity is what every far-right political party wants to implement in their own countries. The far right in America are going to want to implement a similar system within America that's going to be targeting all minorities who are not straight, white, Christian men. Right? So I think I am not surprised that we are seeing an active push for the rise of the far right. I think what Kamala did was she tried to gain more support of conservatives and people who were more right-wing because she noticed that the far right was also on the rise. And I think that's a very worrying trend. I think instead of being complacent, instead of fighting one another, you had marginalized communities fighting one another, whereas the far right, which is predominantly the dominant society, which is white, which is Christian, which is men, they were able to just put in the leader that they wanted to put in. Now, of course, is Kamala pro-genocide? Yes. Nobody is going to deny that. And that's because the West is inherently genocidal. Western imperialism is rooted in genocide of the global south and marginalized bodies, black and brown bodies. Can she be compared to Trump? No. If people were paying attention to, let's say, for example, French politics, you had Macron, who was a piece of shit. And then you had Marine Le Pen, who was also a piece of shit. But Marine Le Pen was an active neo-Nazi, like neo-Yahtzee, right? So of course people are not going to be voting for her, even though both of them were imperialists. And I think this is like the same thing that is happening here with regards to people trying to vote for like an actual fascist, knowing full well that both of them are genocidal. I don't know. It's very disheartening.
Let me to be fair, because since you did mention my thoughts.
The pro-genocide chick? Okay.
You did mention her. So let me let my thoughts respond. And then, again, we got about 10 minutes. So go ahead, my thoughts. Your response to what Covey's saying about the rise of the far right in Europe and the United States kind of modeling after that in regards to Donald Trump. Your thoughts?
So I'd like to make it clear, first of all, I don't want any innocent people to die, not in Gaza, not in Lebanon, not in Israel, not in America, not anywhere. I don't want innocent people to die. I don't want this war. Israel didn't want this war. This was a war that was waged upon them, unfortunately. That's first and foremost. Second of all, I think that you guys are doing yourself a very big disservice, and you will see a continuation of you guys losing elections for a very long time to come if you do not correct this behavior, which is you cannot, for the life of you, take accountability as to why you would have such a blowout. You'd rather sit there and demonize your fellow Americans, sit there and call people.
Hold on, y'all. Let her finish.
Can I just say W mod?
Thank you. Just let me finish. You'd rather sit there and demonize your fellow Americans. You'd rather sit there and call people who just want to be able to afford groceries for their children far-right extremists. You want to call people who want a secure border so they don't need to worry that they're going to be unalived while going for a jog around their university, like we saw from an undocumented immigrant who was released under the catch and release policy of Biden-Harris. You guys would sit there and demonize. Let me just finish what I'm saying.
No, bitch. We're not going to sit here and let her paint immigrants, migrants.
I said illegal
no, shut
immigrants.
Up, bitch. I'm not done. No, hell no. Hell no. We're not going to let her get up here and paint people as criminals because they happen to be from south of the border. We know factually that is incorrect. We know
I said illegal immigrants.
Shut up, you stupid cow. I'm done with you.
Callie, can I say something? I'm so sorry.
Hang on. No, because we know that factually that it's incorrect. We know that factually,
the person
no matter how they migrated
by an
to this
illegal
country,
immigrant,
especially people who migrated here who have, ambiguous, I guess, status, we'll say. We know for a fact, if your ass come off mute one more time, I'm dropping your ass. You better stay on mute. We know for a fact that is incorrect. They commit the least amount of crime. So do not sit up here. You are not going to echo the narratives of Donald Trump and get up here and try to say that these are grapists and unalivers and they're coming here to do these horrible things. Because I do not hear that same narrative. If you were so concerned about grapists, you wouldn't be voting for Donald Trump because he is a grapist. He was found liable for grape. So do not get your ass up here and try to sell that bullshit. You better keep it factual. I know that's a struggle for you, but you better keep it factual. And what did I just tell you about coming off of mute? You better not open your damn mouth until I'm done speaking. Now I'm done.
Can I say something? I'm so sorry. If she had a problem with,
can I please finish?
If you had a problem with immigrants, you wouldn't have been pro-immigrants stealing Palestinian and Lebanese land, big girly pop.
Once again,
you wouldn't have been pro-immigrants stealing Palestinian land if you were so anti-immigration, girly pop. But you're okay with illegal settlers and immigrants going to Palestine and stealing Palestinian land, girly fucking pop. You're pro-genocide, and yes, I will demonize you because you should be demonized. You should be demonized. You're a criminal.
Everybody, hold on. Give me a second. First, okay, whether I strongly agree or strongly disagree, please, let's use TikTok-friendly language. I know it sucks. If we were in my house, I wouldn't care what you said, how you said it, right? It would be different, okay? So that's number one, okay? Number two, right? Let's please stick to facts, right? Okay. And let's please not demonize a specific group of people, right? Any group of people, okay, at all. So my thoughts, you weren't here earlier, right? One of the things that I said about the live was that we were going to talk about, right, why Kamala Harris lost and all of those reasons why. And that's why you're here, because I know you have strong opinions about that. But please, let's not, again, use that opportunity to then demonize any group of people.
I think that's strange because all I said is that I'm sorry that people are that upset that Americans want to enforce their borders and their laws. I'm sorry that it upsets you, but at the end of the day, you said let's stick to the facts, right? And the fact is, Laken Riley was murdered by an illegal immigrant who was released on the
W drop.
So again, undocumented immigrant. Again, she knows better. She knows.
Me, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. Look, here I rarely drop people, Smitty. I think now we're up to like 5 times I've dropped somebody off of your panel. Maybe six. We might be on my second hand now. But honestly, no, you're not gonna get up here and leverage one incident. I don't care if that's accurate or not. You're not going to get up here and leverage that as one incident to demonize an entire community of people. You would not allow that as relates to your own community. And yet we are supposed to allow that as relates to another community of people. I find that to be, well, no, you know what? I wouldn't say that it's laughable. I would say that that's accurate, given her her personhood, given her politics, given her her noted identity as an unabashed Zionist. I would say that that's accurate.
So,
can I also say
real quick, y'all. So let me just kind of tie this in a bow, and then again, the last 10 minutes, I do want to bring it back to the election, right? Let me tie this in a bow. We don't allow undocumented immigrants to be called anything but undocumented immigrants, right? No human is illegal, right? No human is illegal. I don't know why that word is still in circulation when it comes to the English language and describing anybody for doing anything, right? We don't call people that jaywalk across the street illegal walkers, right? We don't do that. We call them jaywalkers. So I don't know why we need to demonize any group of people by using these words that are incredibly harmful and rhetoric that, again, doesn't need to be said. Now, what I will say is that there are reasons that Donald Trump, right, won, and we need to talk about that. We need to talk about those reasons, right? So let me go ahead. Who's the last one to speak? Go ahead. Whoever the last person, whoever has waited the longest. I'm going to bring one more person up, and then we'll be done.
I'll say one thing with regards to the demonization, Smitty, if I'm speaking for myself.
Go ahead.
So I'm not speaking for you, nor is what I'm saying representative of your platform, but I am 100% for the demonization of any people who support the stripping of any group of people's human rights. If you don't think a group of people deserve human rights for any immutable traits, if you sit here and justify the discrimination, oppression, subjugation, unaliving of a group of people, I am 100% for demonizing them. They should be demonized. They shouldn't feel comfortable. They should feel disgusting because they are disgusting. And I think the same way that Yazidis and Germans feel ashamed to be tied to anybody who participate in the Shoah. Anybody who supports the unaliving, the G-siding of a group of people for their immutable traits should also feel ashamed to even exist. So this isn't representative of your platform, Smitty, and I respect what you are saying. For me personally, then I will actively demonize anybody who is pro unaliving or oppressing a group of people.
All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Covey. Let me go to John. John, anything else you want to say? We're gonna wrap it up, and then we'll be back tomorrow. We still got a lot to cover. I do want to focus on the Latino vote tomorrow, so let me see for some folks that want to come up if you are Latino, you didn't get a chance to come up today, let me know. Send me a DM, and we'll try to get you up next time. Go ahead, John. Final comment.
Thank you, Smitty. I appreciate that. Again, this should be a forum where we could actually have a conversation, not to attack one another. I heard a lot of that, but I do want to say that just because I voted for Trump, it wasn't like, oh, I love everything about what he does and what he is about. No, not at all. Another question was, not too many Palestinians, voted for him. Actually, there was a heck of a lot of Palestinians voted for Trump. I could assure you of that. I know them. I am family with them. And so there's a lot. Doesn't mean that we think he's the best for Palestine. Neither one were good for Palestine. So I'm all about, fighting for the lives of people being unalived right now. Like during my time up here, do you know how many women and children and men, innocent, that are innocent, that were unalived there? So no, it concerns me every day. I'm prayerful. I pray every day, and it does concern me. And I work hard every day to make people aware of the issue. But I chose. I had to choose. I believe the better of the two, and I believe that I've chose the better of the two. Now, you may argue with me. I'm happy to discuss any topic, but there just seems to be raw energy right now, and that's fine. And I get it. You're upset. Okay, I'm upset because neither one are good. Okay, I am very saddened because my people are being unalived every moment. So I just want you to all know that I'm disturbed. My entire family are disturbed. I have relatives over there, and I'm not speaking for anybody. Like, first of all, Rima, God bless her. I know where she's coming from too, but at the same time, I'm not speaking for anybody. I can't believe she even insinuated that earlier. I'm speaking literally for myself.
Here's what I think it is. Here's what I think it is, John. I'm not going to speak for Rima or anybody else, but right, when you have someone, let's use the example of the Haitian immigrants, where he said what he said about eating the dogs or whatever it may be. That also is dehumanization, right? When he talks about his plans for stripping DEI and diversity initiatives out of colleges and universities and all of that good stuff. That's also dehumanization and the threats of deporting people just simply for protesting, right? And I've said this many times, right, is that when you rank oppression, when you say, hey, you know what, I'm focused on this one, but then this one doesn't matter enough for me to change my vote, then you are actually doing the work of the colonizer. I've said that once or twice in the last couple of weeks, because all oppression is wrong. Right, all oppression is wrong, and so when you say again, right, okay, hey, you know what, this is important to me, but this I'm gonna let this go, and I'm still gonna vote for this guy. A lot of people aren't gonna like that, John. Right, a lot of people aren't gonna like that.
And by the way, Smitty, I do understand what you're saying, but I don't think that's actually my position at all. Okay. It really is not.
Okay.
And by the way, I was muted from the comments for some reason. I just would hope that you would continue to have an open mind.
I told. So, Miles, can you unmute anybody? Yeah, can you unmute John? I told them to unmute you and actually my thoughts as well when she was here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't mute him, but
appreciate that.
We can have a dialogue. He didn't direct anything towards me, so Smitty, I know your rule, so I will just I will respect your rule right now and go back on mute.
Thank you, fam. Thank you, fam. John's actually, I want to have a little dialogue with John and then close it up. And then if you guys would think another live would be helpful on this topic tomorrow, let me know. Put a 1 in the comments. Especially again, we didn't get a good chance to really focus on the Latino vote. I know Andrew talked about it, and some other folks talked about it. Notorious talked about it. So if you want to have another live tomorrow's going to be harder for me. So I kind of want to get some level of commitment from you guys that you guys will be back. But Caribbean voters too, yes, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I think, and Steph, I'll get you up. Anybody that was here. in the request, absolutely, I'll get you up next time for sure. So yeah, I think, John, it just comes down to again, oppression, and from the standpoint of, right, which is why I'm not a big fan of shaming folks that vote third party, because they're trying to do whatever they feel is best to address the oppression that they're seeing. That's why they typically vote for third party, and flip that to the people that are voting for Kamala Harris, also feeling like they're doing what they need to do, right, to handle and vote who they feel is the appropriate person as well. So, John, we're always going to have honest and discussions and respectful discussions here. So I appreciate you. With that being said, hey, I got to run. Actually, I got to run into a meeting right now. So thank you guys. I thought this was a good live. It had its ups and downs. Listen, let me say this. I know y'all don't like some of the people I platform. I understand. Okay. But guess what? I still love y'all. Y'all still gonna love me. Okay. I get it. Right. But that's the platform. It's either all or none for me.
We love you.
No, we love
What are you talking about?
We love you. I'm just not gonna let them get up here and lie
We
and
love
boldly
you.
lie. You know how I
That's how it
am.
is. That's the
No.
rule. Okay. All right. All right.
Thank you, Smitty.
Love y'all.
Let's not say that,
Thank
but have a good
you.
meeting.
Bye,
Smitty.
Smitty. Good talk.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Talk to y'all soon.
Take care.
Bye.